Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports for the Dutch Grand Prix Day 1 review. We just finished FP2. Now FP2 of course, we should have seen some more qualifying attempts. We saw a lot of soft tyre runs. But the big news of the day is the fact that Lando Norris was actually the one who managed to get the fastest lap of FP2. I mean, how's that?
Yes, I certainly didn't expect to see Lando Norris topping the timesheets at the end of the session, but he had some great lap time out there and was able to take that top spot against Max Verstappen. Very, very close though between those two drivers. 0.023 seconds splitting those first and second positions. And great to see that we do have quite a lot of competition ahead of us this race weekend, hopefully.
Yes, so Lando Norris finished in first place with a 1:11.330, whereas Max Verstappen finished with a 1:11.353, so 0.023 seconds behind the McLaren. Alex Albon finished in third there, a 1:11.599. Then it was Lewis Hamilton in fourth, Tsunoda in fifth, Gasly in sixth, Perez in seventh, Stroll in eighth, 9 was Bottas, and 10 Alonso. Our bottom 10, Reese.
Charles Leclerc, Logan Sargent, Esteban Ocon, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Hamilton, I think is Carlos Sainz, Magnussen in 17th, Hulkenberg 18th, Piastri, and Ricciardo 19th and 20th after their crash that they had early on in the session. Unfortunately, Piastri just lost it into turn 3. He lost the rear end there, hit the rear end on the barrier, and that was his session done because he broke his front wing and I think his front suspension as well. And then coming up behind him was Daniel Ricciardo on a hot lap. He saw Piastri at the last second, decided to bail out, and himself ended up in the wall.
Yeah, I mean, Piastri, unfortunately, just lost it into turn 3, going into the wall, as we said. So those two, Piastri and Ricciardo, did not finish the session. Early on in the day, of course, we had Kevin Hulkenberg. We'll get there. Nico Hulkenberg also spun out into the gravel. He didn't damage the car, though, whereas Piastri and Ricciardo quite significantly damaged theirs. So they're going to need to do lots of repairs by tomorrow for practice session 3, right before we get to qualifying later. And again, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video as well so that you guys can be notified about tomorrow's streams as well. Now, the McLarens, obviously we've got Lando Norris right at the front, Piastri down there. I think Piastri probably would have been right up there with Lando Norris. But another team that was doing all right and then apparently has not seemingly ended all right was Aston Martin.
Yes, well, they had quite good pace in the FP1 session, and then this session they seem to have just fallen back a little bit. Maybe people weren't showing their true pace in the first session, and now in the second session we're seeing where they truly do fit in the pecking order. Unfortunately, not what we really wanted. We wanted to see Aston Martin picking up the pace a little bit, but yeah, this looks unfortunately like where they're going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I was really hoping Aston Martin were going to be a much, much better team come this weekend. It doesn't look like it's going to be likely. Alonso finished in 10th and Stroll in 8th in that second practice session. Now we've just finished. The two Mercedes, though, quite split. Russell in 14th and Hamilton in 4th. Now, what on earth do you think's happened there between Russell and Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton, I mean, he's been more comfortable in that car throughout the entire season compared to his teammate Russell. Russell much preferred the zero side pod concept, whereas Hamilton just seems to be a lot more comfortable in the side podded concept design. And yeah, I think George Russell, even though he has been in the factory trying to get to grips with their new side pod concept car, he's still really struggling to find pace compared to his teammate.
So we now also look at the Haas drivers, Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Hulkenberg, of course, after crashing out in 3 practice 1 and 3 practice 2, finished in 18th. His teammate Kevin Magnussen in 17th. Really, really poor showing from Haas today.
Yes, unfortunately, Haas, I've been saying they just have no pace this season, I think.
Will they ever have pace?
I don't think so. I think they just have too little budget, and I don't really rate their drivers all that highly. I mean, Hulkenberg is all right in certain races. Magnussen, I think, is it's going to be quite harsh there. But I think Magnussen has had his time. I won't say that he has been. He's had his time in Formula 1, and I think they need to make place in that seat for another driver.
I think you've got a driver in mind, don't you? Probably. But that driver's never going to return to Haas, that being Mick Schumacher. But
I don't want Mick to return to Haas anyways.
He could return, though, in place of Logan Sargent, though Logan Sargent didn't do too badly today, finished in 12th in the second practice session. So let's see what he does tomorrow in qualifying and in the race on Sunday. Lots of teams to watch. Williams has been relatively decent so far. Alpine's Gasly finished in 6th, whereas the teammate Ocon down in 13th.
That's not looking good.
So we're just seeing now also this
Daniel Ricciardo really hurt his hand.
Yes. Daniel Ricciardo, as we saw in the replay of that session earlier today, we're seeing Daniel Ricciardo's hand really looks quite sore. And of course, he came in to replace Nick de Vries in that AlphaTauri seat. So now could Nick de Vries come back into the AlphaTauri seat in place of Daniel Ricciardo?
I don't know what's going to happen, but that does not look promising. It looks like Daniel Ricciardo has really hurt his hand in that crash. The steering wheel often in a crash just goes absolutely erratic, and you have to normally let go. And I think while letting go, the steering wheel may have come around and smacked his left hand. And he was holding it as he got out of the car. He wasn't able to use it to support his weight. So that's not looking very promising for him, unfortunately. And I'm hoping he's going to be able to race throughout the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, so not looking good for Danny Rick. His teammate, though, Tsunoda, finished all the way up in 5th. So really not too bad from the AlphaTauri in terms of time. So maybe it's actually a relatively quick car this weekend. It should be very disappointing if Ricciardo cannot participate tomorrow in the sessions. I'm hoping his hand injury will be fine. Maybe just a couple of bruises. Maybe it was just an immediate reaction to it. I'm sure we'll get more information on that as it comes later on in the day. Now, also looking at Perez now, of course, he was one of the first drivers to set a fast lap on the soft tire, so he finished down in 7th position, but still quite a way off his teammate Max Verstappen, though.
Yes, I mean, really far off of his teammate. He's 0.4 seconds off of Lando Norris's time, which means he's, 0.46 off of his teammate's time. That is a massive gap between people in the exact same car.
Yeah, I mean, really, really not great there. Perez also still aiming for a bounce back coming into the second half of this season after ending all right, I suppose, but really not having a great first half of the season as he would have liked. And lots of interviews with him and the Red Bull team about him regarding his form, and lots of chat about whether or not he could be replaced next season. Of course, Alex Albon being one of those names that could potentially be mentioned, but I'm not sure if Alex Albon will go back to Red Bull, but we don't know. All up in the air. But that was day one. Reese, any other things you want to talk about after today?
Well, there wasn't too much that happened really in the second session other than race simulations. The Mercedes look there and thereabouts. The Red Bulls and McLarens look quite evenly matched. Max Verstappen did put in a really fast lap time at one point, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite close in terms of pace throughout the rest of this race weekend. Hopefully that means we'll get some really great racing, but we'll have to wait and see what does happen. It should be quite exciting though.
Indeed. The Ferrari is looking very slow this weekend so far. Hopefully we're going to see some major improvements with them in practice session 3 tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Forever Motorsports. Reese has been Reese and I have been myself, Mark. You've joined us here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Turn on those notifications. Tell your friends about the channel. We are really trying to get this going. And
welcome to Zandvoort, the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. This circuit provides a challenge for the Formula One drivers, as it is one of the more technical circuits on the calendar, with its long main straight, undulating elevation, and high banked corners. The circuit is made up of 14 corners and 2 DRS zones. This weekend, we could see Max Verstappen equaling Sebastian Vettel's 9 consecutive race win record in front of his home crowd. Ride on board now with Verstappen as he takes you around his home circuit. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope you'll join us for our coverage of the Dutch Grand Prix. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports, here for our daily live stream where we take you through all the latest news in the world of Formula 1. It is quite an interesting bunch of articles that I've got here for you today. Please do excuse all the jets going on in the background. It is currently Brits here in South Africa, so you might hear that every now and then. Nonetheless, though, let's take you through this first article for today. And the title of our video, Keanu Reeves to Braun Formula 1. Bit of a clickbait title. Nonetheless, though, very interesting story. Keanu Reeves is ready for victory in the first Braun, the Impossible Formula 1 story image. So this is a series that is going to arrive on Disney Plus later this year. It is being produced by executive producer Keanu Reeves, as well as Jensen Button is of course involved. It goes around the Braun Formula 1 team in that year that they won the Formula 1 championship. So Keanu Reeves will host a Disney Plus documentary series called Braun, the Impossible Formula 1 Story, which examines the success of the underdog Braun team in winning the World Championship in 2009 with just £1. Reeves will interview race car drivers and key figures involved in the team's victory, providing exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the Formula 1 fairy tale. The documentary sets itself apart from other racing-related titles by taking a historical and documentary approach, with Reeves as the perfect host. The presenter, or the series, will premiere later this year on Disney+. Keanu Reeves has had a good year with the success of John Wick Chapter 4. Kicking things off, the actor will be seen hosting a Disney Plus documentary series, Braun, the Impossible Formula One Story. The highly anticipated series will examine the success of the independent Braun team, which won the Formula One World Championship with a team that cost just €1 in 2009. Deadline revealed that the first look of Reeves for the upcoming 4-part series, and it shows the actor next to a race car, revealing just enough to excite fans. In the upcoming series, Reeves will narrate and also interview racing drivers Jenson Button and Rubens Barrichello, former Ferrari chairman Luca de Montezemolo, and Ross Braun himself, along with others who were part of the underdog team. What is Braun, the Impossible Formula One Story about? Reeves will take fans behind the scenes of the Formula One fairy tale with the people who were a part of the moment, either on track, in the garage, or in the boardroom, who will provide their own thrilling versions of a miraculous year and the win for the understaffed and underfinanced team. Fans can further expect exclusive access to the Formula One archives, as well as know more about the contributions from British Formula One drivers Jenson Button and Braun, who led them to victory. Formula One and racing-related titles have been gaining quite some traction recently, as Sony released Gran Turismo with Brad Pitt, John Krasinski, and Jerry Bruckheimer have joined hands to make their own untitled Formula One movie. However, Disney's documentary approach to the 2009 historic win of the Braun team sets itself apart from the rest, with Reeves as the perfect host for this docu-series. The series is developed and produced by showrunner Simon Hammerson and directed by 2022 Broadcast Best Sports Documentary winner Daryl Goodrich. Executive producers include Reeves, Sean Doyle, and Neil Duncanson, while it is produced by the North One production company. It is certainly going to be a very interesting docu-series to watch. I'm sure myself and a lot of other Formula One fans will be very interested in catching all that Keanu Reeves has to bring us, and of course catching on to watch that docu-series about the 2009 World Championship with Braun F1. Certainly a Formula One fairy tale there, with the team went bankrupt. They were able to buy it for just £1. Ross Braun bought it for just £1. They were able to get it to the start of the Formula One series that year, and they had just some incredible different designs to everyone else. I think it was the double diffuser that they had introduced, and that just allowed that team in their first season of Formula One to absolutely hit the ground running and take that championship. So certainly going to be a very, very exciting docu-series to watch. I'm surely going to be keeping my eye out for that one when it does eventually hit the screens. So yes, do be sure to follow for more information about that. Let's run a poll here. Are you going to be watching this docu-series? Mark saying there, don't run over his dog. Yes, otherwise it could be a bit of carnage coming if anyone happens to run over Keanu Reeves' dog. I think we've seen enough of why that happens in all of his... which films are there, actually? John Wick films, that's it. Moving on to our next article, though, here today, talking a little bit about Sergio Perez. I've heard a bit that he has taken the minimum amount of leave days during this Formula One summer break and has already been in the factory at Red Bull this week. So, just reading through this article here from Racing News 365. Perez sets his goals for the second half of the season. The Mexican's second place in the Drivers' Championship is currently under threat from Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez has highlighted his main goals for the second half of the season with Red Bull as he looks to improve his form compared to his teammate Max Verstappen. The Mexican is currently 125 points away from his teammate Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship, with his second place currently under threat from Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull has yet to score a 1-2 at the end of the season, with Perez coming close in 2022 before Charles Leclerc outscored him at the final round in Abu Dhabi last year. Perez expects it to be a tougher challenge for the team heading into the final 10 races of the season as they look to continue their winning streak. Perez says, "I've had a great summer break between being back in Mexico with the family and training hard. I've been in the factory with my engineers this week already. It's been good to catch up after the break, and we've done some very good preparation for the weekend. And we're fully ready for it. I want to pick up where I left off in Spa and be consistently on the podium and challenging for the remainder of the season. Zandvoort will be a tricky race as the field is getting tighter, but we just keep pushing and pushing as a team. And we'll give it our best and to deliver a good result no matter what the weather does. I will be speaking a little bit more about the weather that is forecast for this race weekend a little bit later. But yes, Sergio Perez certainly needs to keep his point scoring streak going, as there is currently a lot of pressure on the Red Bull second driver. Certainly a lot of pressure on Sergio Perez to perform, to have good qualifying sessions, to try and match his teammate as well as he can. He did quite well in the beginning of the season, but nonetheless, he was not able to keep that consistency going with the way that his teammate has been able to in the first half of the season. Nonetheless, though, hopefully Sergio Perez will be able to pick up the pace and be able to keep consistently scoring points and maybe even take a first place at some stage throughout the rest of the season, because he does have that competitive edge and he does have a competitive car under him. So let's see what he is able to do. Certainly he'll be wanting to keep consistent in order to keep his mental game just as strong, because we saw how that crash in Monaco certainly affected his mental strength, because we saw how, I think it was for 4 or 5 races after that, he really did struggle in qualifying. So he doesn't need to have any more setbacks this season. He needs to try and stay consistent, keep in the points, have good qualifying sessions. Yeah, but nonetheless, certainly he should be able to do as well as he can. It's Sergio Perez. He is quite a strong driver. We've seen him in the past being able to do quite well in the second half of the season. But nonetheless, we will see what he is able to do. A few more comments here from Mark, the miracle of 2009, yes. And Mark saying, bolder Perez to assume he will be competing on podiums for every race weekend. Well, it's not necessarily too bold. He's got the car under him, so we will see what he is able to do. So moving on, and speaking about what I did hint a little bit earlier at the weather for this race weekend, is rain set to interrupt another Formula 1 weekend? Rain has impacted every race weekend since the Miami Grand Prix in May. Is the same set to happen again in Zandvoort? The last time a Formula 1 weekend took place without rain interrupting it was the Miami Grand Prix in May, and it looks like that could continue this race weekend. Mixed weather is predicted for the 13th race of this season at Zandvoort, with the biggest threats on Friday and Saturday. With thanks to our friends at we'reonline.nl, here's the current weather forecast for the 2023 Formula 1 Dutch Grand Prix. Friday and Saturday have the biggest rain threats, with Friday afternoon being set to see showers as wind blows in from the west to the northwest, with a chance of thunderstorms being around 5%. Temperatures will range from 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, with an overcast day that will see occasional sunshine. On Saturday, there's also a chance of showers, with the threat a lot higher for the third practice session, with 40% being predicted compared to qualifying with 35% being predicted, with the thunderstorms still a chance in the evening. The uncertainty in the weather forecast continues with around a 40% chance of rain set for the morning of the race day, although systems predict that it could still impact the race. So, once again, another Formula 1 race weekend being impacted by the weather. This could be interesting as, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix is set right on the beach, so it does often get affected by the rain. Not only by the rain, but also by the wind. We see how the drivers and cars get very unsettled by the gusting winds here, because of course it is set right next to the beach, and it is understandable to get rain and gusting winds when you are right next to the beach. Yes, going to be interesting. Hopefully we don't get the weather interrupting the sessions all that much this weekend, but it could still be a bit of an unknown. Nonetheless, though, hopefully it doesn't impact racing all that much, and we should be able to get running in every session this race weekend. Moving on to our next article from Formula1.com, speaking about Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo and his Formula 1 racing return, leaving those McLaren struggles behind and coming back from the summer break stronger. Daniel Ricciardo made headlines just before the summer shutdown as he sensationally returned to the Formula 1 grid with AlphaTauri, taking the place of axed driver Nick de Vries, alongside the teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Fresh from that comeback, the Australian met with the media to reflect on his performance and ponder what is to come. "I thought you would have forgotten about me already," said Daniel Ricciardo, grinning to the gathered journalists as he sat down for his Thursday press session at the Belgium Grand Prix, a week on from getting back in the saddle in Hungary. Only half a year earlier had Daniel Ricciardo stepped away from the front line of Formula 1, splitting with McLaren after 2 challenging seasons and heading back home, in inverted commas, to Red Bull, where he took on simulator and marketing duties and, crucially, had some time to think about what he would do next. But as the year went on, 2 crucial factors came together and paved the way for an earlier than planned racing return for the Australian. The first, Daniel Ricciardo getting his mojo back, in the words of Red Bull team boss Christian Horner, and then second, company chiefs losing patience over de Vries as the AlphaTauri rookie struggled to deliver the form that he had netted him a full-time Formula 1 seat in the first place. As Daniel Ricciardo's first and impressive real-life run in the RB19 at Silverstone came to a close, the deal had been done. Having missed just 10 races, the Australian was drafted back into action at the Hungaroring, with sister team AlphaTauri, an operation he previously represented in their Toro Rosso days, and one in need of an experienced driver to move them off the foot of the Formula 1 standings. Despite his aforementioned performance, struggles at McLaren, which prompted Horner to comment that "I didn't recognise the Daniel of the last couple of years," and despite having no prior experience in the AlphaTauri chassis, the Daniel Ricciardo on show in Budapest was confident from the outset. With a host of pre-race interviews behind him and some preliminary discussions with his engineers in the bank, Ricciardo out-qualified Yuki Tsunoda, contesting his 3rd season with AlphaTauri at the first time of asking. Placing a very solid 13th on the grid and setting up the prospect of a challenge for the valuable points. With that aspiration effectively came undone during the first lap when his rear end was hit by Alfa Romeo driver, Zhou Guanyu, and was pushed back into the back of Esteban Ocon's Alpine. Ricciardo ploughed on to make the checkered flag and extracted plenty of positives from his first weekend back in action. "I definitely made a point to enjoy it all," he says of the event. "Even the media day, there was a lot. I think I joked. It's like I just won a world championship. There was so much interest, but it was something that you kind of just have to soak it all up and enjoy it." I think the weekend as a whole went well. Monday I was kind of knackered, so I was very low-key and just reflected on it. I think the main thing was, yes, I was happy with my performance, but I was happy about the way I was kind of going racing again. The weekend, as chaotic as it felt, I really enjoyed it. I felt like everything was under control. It was busy, but it wasn't too much. Even me just managing things more, I don't know. It was a more enjoyable experience than I guess I'd probably just found myself in more often in the last year or so. And that was really important. It's certainly great to see Daniel Ricciardo feeling back on top of his form yet again. It's great to see the Daniel Ricciardo of old back in the Formula 1 paddock. Certainly the last 2 years in McLaren, he didn't seem to be the Daniel Ricciardo we knew and loved. But it is certainly great to see him back now in this Red Bull seat, looking rejuvenated and once again really, really happy. I have another article from Racing News 365 English Reese about Daniel Ricciardo, just saying Daniel Ricciardo is ready to attack at Zandvoort. After having used the summer break to regain race fitness, the Australian is raring to go for the rest of the 2023 season. AlphaTauri's Daniel Ricciardo has said he is looking to attack the remainder of the 23 Formula 1 season, which resumes this race weekend with the Dutch Grand Prix after a 4-week summer break. Ricciardo returned to racing 2 Grand Prix ago in Hungary, replacing the Axe driver Nick de Vries, which we've already spoken about. Daniel Ricciardo then said, "I'm very excited about racing at Zandvoort, mainly to get the second half of the season going. I've only got the 2 races before the break, so I spent the past few weekends training and building up my fitness to be all set to attack the second half of this season. I've really enjoyed being back, and the 2 races with the team have been awesome. Now I'm very hungry and motivated, and I feel the way I want to feel. That's why I'm looking forward to kicking off in Zandvoort, which is a very fast track with an awesome atmosphere. Tsunoda is hoping for his first finish in Zandvoort, as Ricciardo's teammate Yuki Tsunoda scored only his and AlphaTauri's 3rd point of the season at the previous round in Belgium. And having never previously finished a Grand Prix at Zandvoort, the Japanese driver said he was itching to set the record straight. We've had 2 races in Zandvoort in the past, and I've even made it into Q3 the last year, but I've never finished, so that's something I want to put right this race weekend. I like the track because it's technical with some unique features, such as the steeply banked corners and the mix of slow and fast turns. It's physically quite demanding, but I'm not sure how we will perform here, because even if the Belgian Grand Prix went well, much of that was down to the specific nature of the track and the weather, while Zandvoort is very different, a medium to high downforce circuit, but hopefully we can have a very good race here. Because the track is very narrow, our main focus will be set on qualifying, which is something we have struggled with so far this season. So let's see how it goes. Certainly going to be a very interesting race weekend to see what the AlphaTauri drivers can do. Hopefully they'll be bringing some more upgrades this race weekend so they can get their car a little bit further up the grid. But nonetheless, let's see what they are able to do. It's going to be a very exciting race weekend. Zandvoort always provides some great racing for us Formula 1 fans. Moving on to our final 2 articles. One from Stefano Domenicali, and then another clickbaity funny article that we do have as our final article for today. So, our second to last one is from racefans.net, speaking about Verstappen's dominance in Formula 1. With quotes from Stefano Domenicali, the current Formula 1 group boss. So, nothing negative is the quotes in Verstappen's dominance of Formula 1, says Domenicali. In the roundup, Max Verstappen's domination of the 2023 Formula 1 season is not negative for the championship, CEO Stefano Domenicali insists. In brief, Domenicali says Verstappen's performance should be celebrated. Verstappen could score a record-equaling 9th consecutive victory at his home race this weekend. Despite criticism over the one-sided nature of the competition in this year's Formula 1 Championship, Domenicali believes that the Red Bull driver's achievements should be celebrated. He's quoted as saying, "I would say, first of all, I think it is the right moment to celebrate the incredible job that Verstappen is doing in that car." He said in a recent call with limited media investors, because if you see the other car and where the others are in terms of gap, it is just incredible how Max is doing an incredible job. That has been always a part of Formula 1, and I would say that this is a part of the game. I'm pretty sure that in the next couple of years, the technical gaps will be reduced, but if someone is great, we need to celebrate what they're doing. And sometimes I have to say, there's also the need to confirm the legacy of somebody who is doing something spectacular. His achievements have won him many supporters in some of the regions of Formula 1 has begun visiting in recent years, Domenicali added. In certain markets, mainly the new ones, you can see that he is also putting an incredible legacy, because you know that it means something if you're able to win so many races. That means you're really a great leader. So there's nothing negative in that respect, and if you look back, I would say that this has been always a part of Formula 1 history. So, very interesting there from Stefano Domenicali. Certainly something that I've been saying for a couple of weeks. The fact that it's not necessarily something that we should be upset about, because Max Verstappen is dominating a season, but nonetheless, it's what is integral to the DNA of the sport. We've seen it with Michael Schumacher, we've seen it with Ayrton Senna, we've seen it with Lewis Hamilton. It's something that happens in the sport, and it's integral to the DNA of the sport to have every now and then a driver who's just steps above the rest, really. And yes, that is really what the sport has in its DNA. So just a few comments here from Mark in the comment section. Sargent is crying if there's rain. Certainly, it's going to be interesting to see whether we do get some rain this weekend. Then Daniel Ricciardo is greater than De Vries. Certainly, that is true. And then being asked which of his course note, and then also asking how was that Zak Brown comment yesterday. So for those of you who didn't know, Zak Brown was doing a video yesterday. Let's just try and see this. Zak Brown comments. There we go. I found an article about it here from Crash.net. Zak Brown leaves Lando Norris shocked by dominating like Fernando Alonso on Lance Stroll remark. McLaren boss CEO Zak Brown left Lando Norris visibly shocked with the dig at Aston Martin Formula 1 driver Lance Stroll. Brown, Norris and Oscar Piastri were all appearing on the Chris Evans breakfast show ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix. During a Q&A segment, the trio were asked what they were best at outside of Formula 1. After winning the latest round of the Q&A, Brown joked, "I am dominating this, like Alonso on Stroll." Norris and Piastri were completely surprised by Brown's quip. Before Brown's dig at Stroll, the McLaren boss reveals baseball was his main talent outside of running an F1 team. I mean, certainly those two drivers were left quite shocked by that comment from Zak Brown. It was certainly quite funny to see their reactions to that. But yes, I mean, Lance Stroll has just been left in the absolute dust this season compared to his teammate Fernando Alonso, and that is what my final article is about today. I did say it is a bit of a clickbaity title, but nonetheless, quite a funny story nonetheless. It's something that really made me chuckle when I saw it yesterday. Formula 1 rumours going about. Lance Stroll is considering a switch to tennis. Yes, you heard that right. Of course, it is just a rumour, but Lance Stroll is reportedly considering a switch to tennis. Aston Martin driver Lance Stroll is rumoured to be considering leaving Formula 1 to become a professional tennis star. This is an article from planetf1.com, so take it with a bucket heap of salt. The Canadian has enjoyed a respectable level of success since arriving on the grid with Williams in 2017. Claiming 3 podium finishes and memorably setting pole position for the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix, but is yet to prove his credentials as a potential world champion. Having measured up well alongside 4-time title winner Sebastian Vettel in 2021 and 2022, Stroll has struggled alongside 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso in 2023. While Alonso has 6 podium finishes to his name this season, Stroll is yet to finish higher than 4th and sits a massive 102 points deficit behind his teammate in the driver's standings ahead of this week's Dutch Grand Prix. Stroll's commitment has been regularly questioned throughout his 7-year Formula 1 career, with rumours growing that he may be set to walk away from the sport. Appearing on the race podcast, respected journalist Ben Anderson, the former editor of GP Racing magazine, referenced rumours that Stroll is contemplating a sensational switch to tennis. And he identified AlphaTauri drivers Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda, plus Williams, Alex Albon, and McLaren rookie Oscar Piastri as potential replacements. Anderson said, Stroll is too behind. Let me try that again. Anderson said Stroll is too far behind Alonso, but really, he's only likely to leave that team voluntarily. He's on a rolling contract in his father's organization, and said there's been some rumors floating around that he is considering a switch to tennis. So if he makes a career switch like that, that opens up the seat. That said, I don't think he's keeping anyone off the grid who truly belongs there. I just think maybe he should be slightly lowered down. If the seat were theoretically to come up for 2024 and 25, there's probably a few ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in that queue. Albon Tsunoda has already been mentioned as somebody Honda, as that is Aston Martin's future engine partner from 2026, would potentially like to bring on board down the line. Even someone like Oscar Piastri, who's making waves as a rookie, once his original McLaren contract comes to an end, he would be someone you'd look at very seriously. Especially in Aston Martin's situation where you've got Alonso as an established team leader, but aging and not likely to continue much beyond 2025. So Ricciardo, yes, big commercial appeal and popularity, but he's got a long way to go still to restore his reputation to really compete for a top drive, although he would be a credible asset to the majority of Formula One teams. The departure of Stroll would likely raise multiple questions over the future of Aston Martin team, which is owned by the 24-year-old's father, Lawrence Stroll. Mr. Stroll rescued the Silverstone-based team, then Force India, from administration in 2018, signing his son for the following season before embarking on an ambitious mission to build a title-winning force. Having rebranded the team as Aston Martin at the start of the 21 season, Stroll committed to the building of a new state-of-the-art factory which opened earlier this year, with the team making a significant leap forward in performance in 2023. However, Aston Martin's performance on track is said to be covering up the struggles of the luxury road car company, which Stroll has owned since January of 2020. In March, it emerged that Aston Martin had previously suffered losses of almost $500 million in 2022, and which is up from £213 million lost the previous year. Nonetheless, though, we will see whether Aston Martin continues to be in the sport. Surely Lawrence Stroll will be wanting to keep that team going, as they are becoming slowly title contenders, with Fernando Alonso, of course, taking multiple podium finishes this season. It's a bit of a shocker, though, if Stroll does want to go to tennis. Certainly not something that any of us would have predicted. Let's start a new poll. Would you be surprised? Would you be surprised if Stroll retires to pursue tennis? And that is now live. Yes, so that is certainly... I mean, I will be very surprised if Stroll retires to do tennis. I had a great chuckle yesterday, though, on Twitter with, of course, when this article came out, people just took the absolute mick out of, not Mick Schumacher, but the Mickey out of Lance Stroll, because no one expects Lance Stroll to go and do tennis. Someone commented and said, has Lawrence Stroll bought his son Wimbledon? Because, I mean, he came and bought his son a Formula One team. What's going to stop him from buying Wimbledon? But nonetheless, a bit of a funny article to end off our stream here today. Thank you very much for joining me. Been an interesting couple of articles here today. Be sure to go and check out all of our other videos. We've got a bunch of shorts going at the moment. Also got our Instagram page up and running. We've got TikTok now. I've got a Twitter. So please do be sure to go and check all of those things out. I will update the description once I'm finished with this to put all of those in there. So please do be sure to go and check all of those out. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Formula One content from us. Of course, this is a race weekend, so do be sure to stay tuned for all of the live sessions that are going to be coming to you. We have Formula 2, Formula 3, as well as, of course, the major event, Formula 1, coming this race weekend. Glad to have Formula 1 yet again on our calendar and on our screens, because it has been a very, very long 4-week break. Nonetheless, so that has been it from me, Reese. Thank you very much for joining me here for our Formula 1 News daily live stream here on Forever. London-based Enyo Law said Brazilian Massa, now 42, had been the victim of a conspiracy committed by individuals at the highest level of Formula 1, together with the FIA and Formula 1 management. It is said that Massa has lost out on tens of millions of euros in lost earnings and bonuses as a result of another driver's deliberate crash at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix that was allegedly covered up before becoming a scandal in 2009. This was known as Crashgate, and wow, it really was a story that did shock the Formula One community. Just going on here, the crash that cost Massa vital points in a season where he ultimately lost out by a single point to McLaren's Lewis Hamilton, the first of the Britons, record equaling seven World Championship titles. Simply put, by Massa's lawyers, Mr. Massa is the rightful 2008 Drivers' Champion, and F1 and Formula One and the FIA deliberately ignored the misconduct that cheated him out of that title, said the letter. Mr. Massa is unable to fully quantify his losses at this stage, but estimates that they are likely to exceed tens of millions of euros. I mean, gosh, this is quite substantial to see a lawsuit coming for a lost championship, because of course it was due to misconduct from the FIA and Formula One bosses. So he could have a leg to stand on really here for a court proceeding. Carrying on here though, this amount does not cover the serious moral and reputational losses suffered by Mr. Massa, his lawyers went on to say. Massa sought legal advice, and after Formula One Supremo Bernie Ecclestone was quoted in March saying he and former FIA president Max Mosley knew in 2008 that then Renault driver Nelson Piquet's crash was deliberate but had not acted. An FIA spokesperson said that the governing body acknowledged the receipt of correspondence from Massa's representatives and added, "The matter is under review and we will not be providing a comment at this stage." rain set to interrupt another Formula One weekend. Rain has impacted every race weekend since the Miami Grand Prix in May. Is the same set to happen again in Zandvoort? The last time a Formula One weekend took place without rain interrupting it was the Miami Grand Prix in May, and it looks like that could continue this race weekend. Mixed weather is predicted for the 13th race of this season at Zandvoort, with the biggest threats on Friday and Saturday. With thanks to our friends at weareonline.nl, here's the current weather forecast for the 2023 Formula One Dutch Grand Prix. Friday and Saturday have the biggest rain threats, with Friday afternoon being set to see showers as wind blows in from the west to the northwest, with a chance of thunderstorms being around 5%. Temperatures will range from 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, with an overcast day that will see occasional sunshine. On Saturday, there's also a chance of showers, with the threat a lot higher for the third practice session, with 40% being predicted compared to qualifying with 35% being predicted, with the thunderstorms still a chance in the evening. The uncertainty in the weather forecast continues with around a 40% chance of rain set for the morning of the race day, although systems predict that it could still impact the race. So, once again, another Formula One race weekend being impacted by the weather. This could be interesting as, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix is set right on the beach, so it does often get affected by the rain. Not only by the rain, but also by the wind. We see how the drivers and cars get very unsettled by the gusting winds here, because, of course, it is set right next to the beach, and it is understandable to get rain and gusting winds when you are right next to the beach. Yes, going to be interesting. Hopefully we don't get the weather interrupting the sessions all that much this weekend, but it could still be a bit of an unknown. Nonetheless, though, hopefully it doesn't impact racing all that much, and we should be able to get running in every session this race weekend. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsport. Here for some breaking news. Haas have decided to retain Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg as their drivers for 2024. Haas have opted for continuity next season, as they announced Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen will continue to race for them for a second successive season in 2024. Hülkenberg has been impressive on his full-time racing return to Formula One this year. The German reached Q3 6 times in 12 races, and scoring the team's best finish, 7th in the Australian Grand Prix. Magnussen has scored 2 of the team's 3-point finishes, a brace of 10th places in Saudi Arabia and Miami in his 6th season with Haas. Between them, they have 346 Grand Prix starts, and it is the experience that Haas will hope can take the team to the next level. The American squad currently sits 8th in the Constructors' Championship, which is the same position where they finished in last year's championship. They'll be hoping that retaining these 2 new drivers for next season will help them to be able to improve their car as well as finish higher up in the standings. I think it is safe to say that we've had an extremely solid driver pairing this season in Formula One, and ultimately there was no reason to look to change that moving forward, said team principal Günther Steiner. Kevin is obviously a very well-known quantity to us, and I'm delighted he'll return for what will be his 7th season in Haas colours. With 113 starts for our team alone, we know where his strengths lie, and his knowledge, as well as experience of our organisation, pairs very well with that too. On the other side of the garage, Nico's simply slotted in without fuss or fanfare, and proved himself to be a valuable member of the team. He's approaching 200 starts in Formula One, and we're very happy to be the beneficiary of that experience behind the wheel. We've had to tackle our issues this season with regards to the VF23, we don't hide from that. But we've been extremely fortunate to have 2 drivers whose feedback is invaluable in assisting our engineering objectives. We'll be certainly watching these 2 drivers as they continue to drive for the Haas outfit in 2024.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports for the Dutch Grand Prix Day 1 review. We just finished FP2. Now FP2, of course, we should have seen some more qualifying attempts. We saw a lot of soft tyre runs, but the big news of the day is the fact that Lando Norris was actually the one who managed to get the fastest lap of FP2. I mean, how's that?
Yes, I certainly didn't expect to see Lando Norris topping the timesheets at the end of the session, but he had some great lap time out there and was able to take that top spot against Max Verstappen. Very, very close though between those two drivers. 0.023 seconds splitting those first and second positions. And great to see that we do have quite a lot of competition ahead of us this race weekend, hopefully.
Yes, so Lando Norris finished in first place with a 1:11.330, whereas Max Verstappen finished with a 1:11.353, so 0.023 seconds behind the McLaren. Alex Albon finished in third there, a 1:11.599. Then it was Lewis Hamilton in fourth, Tsunoda in fifth, Gasly in sixth, Perez in seventh, Stroll in eighth, 9 was Bottas, and 10 Alonso. Our bottom 10, Reese.
Charles Leclerc, Logan Sargent, Esteban Ocon, George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Hamilton, I think is Carlos Sainz, Magnussen in 17th, Hulkenberg 18th, Piastri, and Ricciardo 19th and 20th after their crash that they had early on in the session. Unfortunately, Piastri just lost it into turn 3. He lost the rear end there, hit the rear end on the barrier, and that was his session done because he broke his front wing and I think his front suspension as well. And then coming up behind him was Daniel Ricciardo on a hot lap. He saw Piastri at the last second, decided to bail out, and himself ended up in the wall.
Yeah, I mean, Piastri, unfortunately, just lost it into turn 3, going into the wall, as we said. So those two, Piastri and Ricciardo, did not finish the session. Early on in the day, of course, we had Kevin Hulkenberg. We'll get there. Nico Hulkenberg also spun out into the gravel. He didn't damage the car, though, whereas Piastri and Ricciardo quite significantly damaged theirs. So they're going to need to do lots of repairs by tomorrow for practice session 3, right before we get to qualifying later. And again, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video as well, so that you guys can be notified about tomorrow's streams as well. Now, the McLarens, obviously we've got Lando Norris right at the front, Piastri down there. I think Piastri probably would have been right up there with Lando Norris. But another team that was doing all right and then apparently has not seemingly ended all right was Aston Martin.
Yes, well, they had quite good pace in the FP1 session, and then this session they seem to have just fallen back a little bit. Maybe people weren't showing their true pace in the first session, and now in the second session we're seeing where they truly do fit in the pecking order. Unfortunately, not what we really wanted. We wanted to see Aston Martin picking up the pace a little bit, but yeah, this looks unfortunately like where they're going to be for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I was really hoping Aston Martin were going to be a much better team come this weekend. It doesn't look like it's going to be likely. Alonso finished in 10th and Stroll in 8th in that second practice session. Now we've just finished. The two Mercedes, though, quite split. Russell in 14th and Hamilton in 4th. Now, what on earth do you think's happened there between Russell and Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton, I mean, he's been more comfortable in that car throughout the entire season compared to his teammate Russell. Russell much preferred the zero side pod concept, whereas Hamilton just seems to be a lot more comfortable in the side podded concept design. And yeah, I think George Russell, even though he has been in the factory trying to get to grips with their new side pod concept car, he's still really struggling to find pace compared to his teammate.
So we now also look at the Haas drivers, Hulkenberg and Magnussen. Hulkenberg, of course, after crashing out in 3 practice 1 and 3 practice 2, finished in 18th. His teammate Kevin Magnussen in 17th. Really poor showing from Haas today.
Yes, unfortunately, Haas, I've been saying they just have no pace this season, I think.
Will they ever have pace?
I don't think so. I think they just have too little budgets, and I don't really rate their drivers all that highly. I mean, Hulkenberg is all right in certain races. Magnussen, I think, is it's going to be quite harsh there. But I think Magnussen has had his time. I won't say that he has been. He's had his time in Formula 1, and I think they need to make place in that seat for another driver.
I think you've got a driver in mind, don't you? Probably. But that driver's never going to return to Haas, that being Mick Schumacher. But
I don't want Mick to return to Haas anyways.
He could return, though, in place of Logan Sargent. Though Logan Sargent didn't do too badly today. Finished in 12th in the second practice session. So let's see what he does tomorrow in qualifying and in the race on Sunday. Lots of teams to watch. Williams has been relatively decent so far. Alpine's Gasly finished in 6th, whereas the teammate Ocon down in 13th.
That's not looking good.
So we're just seeing now also this
Daniel Ricciardo really hurt his hand.
Yes. Daniel Ricciardo, as we saw in the replay of that session earlier today, we're seeing Daniel Ricciardo's hand really looks quite sore. And of course, he came in to replace Nick de Vries in that AlphaTauri seat. So now could Nick de Vries come back into the AlphaTauri seat in place of Daniel Ricciardo.
I don't know what's going to happen, but that does not look promising. It looks like Daniel Ricciardo has really hurt his hand in that crash. The steering wheel often in a crash just goes absolutely erratic, and you have to normally let go. And I think while letting go, the steering wheel may have come around and smacked his left hand, and he was holding it as he got out of the car. He wasn't able to use it to support his weight. So that's not looking very promising for him, unfortunately. And I'm hoping he's going to be able to race throughout the rest of this weekend.
Yeah, so not looking good for Danny Rick. His teammate, though, Tsunoda, finished all the way up in 5th. So really not too bad from the AlphaTauri in terms of time. So maybe it's actually a relatively quick car this weekend. It should be very disappointing if Ricciardo cannot participate tomorrow in the sessions. I'm hoping his hand injury will be fine. Maybe just a couple of bruises. Maybe it was just an immediate reaction to it. I'm sure we'll get more information on that as it comes for later on in the day. Now, also looking at Perez now, of course, he was one of the first drivers to set a fast lap on the soft tire, so he finished down in 7th position, but still quite a way off his teammate Max Verstappen, though.
Yes, I mean, really far off of his teammate. He's 0.4 seconds off of Lando Norris's time, which means he's, 0.46 off of his teammate's time. That is a massive gap between people in the exact same car.
Yeah, I mean, really, really not great there. Perez also still aiming for a bounce back coming into the second half of this season after ending all right, I suppose, but really not having a great first half of the season as he would have liked. And lots of interviews with him and the Red Bull team about him regarding his form, and lots of chat about whether or not he could be replaced next season. Of course, Alex Albon being one of those names that could potentially be mentioned, but I'm not sure if Alex Albon will go back to Red Bull, but we don't know. All up in the air. But that was day one. Reese, any other things you want to talk about after today?
Well, there wasn't too much that happened really in the second session other than race simulations. The Mercedes look there and thereabouts. The Red Bulls and McLarens look quite evenly matched. Max Verstappen did put in a really fast lap time at one point, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite close in terms of pace throughout the rest of this race weekend. Hopefully that means we'll get some really great racing, but we'll have to wait and see what does happen. It should be quite exciting though.
Indeed, the Ferrari is looking very slow this weekend so far. Hopefully we're going to see some major improvements with them in practice session 3 tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Forever Motorsports. Reese has been Reese and I have been myself, Mark. You've joined us here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Turn on those notifications. Tell your friends about the channel. We are really trying to get this going, and
Welcome to Zandvoort, the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. This circuit provides a challenge for the Formula One drivers, as it is one of the more technical circuits on the calendar. With its long main straight, undulating elevation, and high banked corners. The circuit is made up of 14 corners and 2 DRS zones. This weekend, we could see Max Verstappen equaling Sebastian Vettel's 9 consecutive race win record in front of his home crowd. Ride on board now with Verstappen as he takes you around his home circuit. sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content. And we hope you'll join us for our coverage of the Dutch Grand Prix.
It might have been, 10
Hello everybody
times worse.
and welcome to
But
Forever
poor Daniel,
Motorsports.
you
We are
see
now
the wheels
live
snap
for the
around in his
last
hands
practice
and that
session
metatarsal.
of the weekend here for Zandvoort. So we are in the last weekend now, and yeah, very much looking forward to see what happens in this session. We're going to get lots of qualifying simulations done now in this session as well, which is going to be great. And I think the immediate thing that we need to talk about is the fact that the rain is coming down in Zandvoort. There's lots of rain right now in this session. So I think even when the green flags are waved, we're probably not going to get too many cars back out on track. So we're probably going to have to talk a little bit about. But probably a good thing because we can talk about yesterday's incident with Oscar Piastri crashing and then Daniel Ricciardo coming around the corner, not able to avoid the crash. And so then obviously went into the wall, and in so doing has broken his hand. His left hand is now broken, so he is now out of at least this weekend, if not more weekends going forward, which is very, very disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo, who of course has just come back into F1, replacing Nick de Vries in that seat. So as a result, Liam Lawson, who we've now got eyes on in that AlphaTauri team, it will be taking over as he is the reserve driver. So Liam Lawson will be driving for the remainder of this weekend and potentially more weekends after this. And he looks very chuffed to be there, of course, under rather difficult circumstances with Daniel Ricciardo unfortunately getting that injury yesterday. But Liam Lawson will be taking over in that AlphaTauri seat. So big news with regards to that. Massive, massive news. And I think it's certainly going to be a good test for the rookie. And let's see how he fares. Maybe he gets points. And, Daniel Ricciardo, of course, hasn't got points since coming back. And Nick de Vries didn't get a single point the entire season. So if Liam Lawson somehow manages to go and get a point, he would have done better than quite a few drivers already. So all eyes will be on Liam Lawson. Because, obviously, Daniel Ricciardo is no longer racing for us this weekend. Again, just reiterating, the weather right now is raining. It's not too heavy, but it's certainly enough to, of course, the track to get very much wet and still raining heavy enough. And we are going to be joined by Reese in just a little bit now. But before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video. And again, we've got a dedicated F1 channel that we're using a lot more going forward. The link is in the chat there, so be sure to go and click on that link there and subscribe to our new channel, which, of course, will be utilizing a lot more going forward. Reese has now joined us. So hello Reese, how are we doing? Are we looking forward to today's practice sessions? Wet? Yeah.
Yes, I think it's going to make things quite tricky out there on track. Of course, yesterday in the dry, a couple of drivers finding it quite difficult in those conditions. So today it's going to be very difficult. Of course, I'm sure you've spoken about it already, but the big news, of course, is that Daniel Ricciardo will not be participating in the rest of this race weekend due to him breaking his hand. Very disappointing, but we wish Daniel Ricciardo a speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll see him again on the grid very soon.
Yeah, it's exactly that. We were talking about Daniel Ricciardo being replaced by Liam Lawson. Now, what are you expecting from Liam Lawson going into this race weekend?
Nothing really, to be honest. It's his first time in a Formula 1 car. It's going to be difficult for him, of course, stepping into this practice 3 session, especially in the wet, and then trying to get to grips with the car in these conditions, and then going straight out into qualifying later this afternoon.
So, I mean, it's wet conditions. It's something we haven't seen so far for the for this session. Well, in Zandvoort at the moment. So, I mean, are we expecting certain drivers to be quicker or not?
Well, I mean, of course, the more experienced drivers are going to be better as per usual. That will be the likes of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris as well quite enjoys the wet rainy conditions, so we'll see some of those drivers doing quite well, and then maybe we'll get another few outliers in the wet.
Okay, so we are just about 5 minutes, or just under 6 minutes rather, away from the start of this session here. And I'm sure that we are all very excited to see what might happen today in qualifying later, of course. We're not going to see too many cars come out, I don't think, given the conditions right now. They'll probably come out a little bit later. Though it is predicted to be raining for quite a bit more this weekend, so they might well try get some practice on the intermediate tyre and the wet tyre.
Yes, especially if we're going to get conditions like this for qualifying later this afternoon, then they'd surely want to be doing a lot of qualifying runs to get as much practice in these tricky conditions. It's a difficult track at the best of times. So yeah, I think they're definitely going to need to do some practice here this afternoon in the wet.
So, I mean, we obviously saw practice session 2 yesterday. We saw Lando Norris top that ahead of Max Verstappen. Now, is that an early telltale sign, or is that just Max Verstappen not managing to get round in as quick a fashion as he would have probably liked?
Well, if you remember from yesterday, Mark, Max Verstappen got caught out on his first quali run by a wayward Haas that was going very slowly there in the final sector. So that is why Max Verstappen's lap time was not as fast as we would have expected. But he went and did a second run. Of course, those tyres would have been a bit older then, and he put himself just behind Lando Norris. So I think he does definitely have that pace here this weekend.
Yeah, so we're just about going into practice. We're just 4 minutes and 30 seconds odd away from that green light. Though, as I say, we're not going to see many cars, I think, make their way out straight away. So we'll probably have to talk a little bit for a while. Yeah, and I think all eyes will be on Max Verstappen in terms of this weekend. It's his home Grand Prix in Zandvoort. I'm sure he'll want to make an impression. Somebody in the comments joking about breaking the Nico Rosberg curse. That, of course, it's happened all season long, and apparently it's happened now to Red Bull. So we'll see if Max can break it. I'm sure he probably will. And yeah, guys, be sure to like the video. We get up to 50 viewers. Let's get up to 100 as quickly as possible just before the start of the session. So, yeah, just looking at this weather, yeah, it's very much wet, eh?
Yes, it is looking quite torrential at the moment. Doesn't look like it's impossible to run. Of course, these banked corners allow a lot better water runoff of the circuit. So we should be able to get drivers out there from the get-go, but I think they'll kind of wait for the first few drivers to do some sighting laps, and then they'll decide from then onwards. Of course, Max Verstappen won't get out immediately because we often see that he's a bit more tentative. When it is raining, he decides to wait for the other cars first. The track distance here at Zandvoort is 4.2 kilometers, and full throttle is spent at about 58%. The top speed in the dry, of course, is 327.5 kilometers an hour, with 14 turns and an elevation of 8.65 meters. This track is set right next to the, right next to the beach here. So we do get a lot of weather systems moving through, and our tire compounds for this race weekend are the C3, 2, and 1 compounds. Going from C5 to C0, this is the harder of the compounds here. Not the hardest, but certainly some of the harder compounds that we get on a race weekend.
And the weather conditions right now, we are raining. It's 14 degrees Celsius. Track temperature is just 18 degrees Celsius. Humidity, of course, is very high with that rain, 87%, with a wind of 5.7 kilometers in the southeasterly direction. So, I don't think we're going to get too many cars out there. And let us know, though, in the comments where you guys are tuning in from. What do you think is going to happen today in qualifying later? And, of course, in this session right now. And I see Larry here said morning. Well, morning to you, Larry. Good to see you here. And, again, guys, keep the questions coming in. Let's get some discussions going as we start the session here. We're probably going to need some questions because we won't have too much action to talk about as we start off the session. But I think it's going to be quite a good race weekend.
Well, we'll have to see what happens tomorrow because there is rain predicted throughout the entire day tomorrow afternoon, from the morning to the evening, as well as this afternoon. It is not meant to dry up at all in Zandvoort, except for a little dry patch at about 5 o'clock, which is pretty much when our qualifying is finished.
This being today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today and tomorrow is wet.
Yeah. So qualifying will be pretty much in the wet. So you'll probably see quite a few cars obviously come out during this session. I'm just not sure quite when they will come out, but they will definitely come out to go and do some quali attempts in these sort of conditions. I think it's a little bit of a dry patch right now over the track. There doesn't seem to be too much rain over the track, although I do see a few drips and drabs of that wet weather there. Just looking at Liam Lawson's name here in the AlphaTauri garage, of course, the reserve driver after Danny Rick took over for Nick de Vries. So, yeah. Just looking at his history here, in 2023 he's been the AlphaTauri reserve driver. 2022 he was F2 third place for the Carlin team, and yeah, so he's got lots of experience in the junior formulas. So how's he going to fare this weekend? We're obviously going to see. Max Verstappen's already in his car, ready to get out there, as we're just about there for the beginning of this practice session.
Yes, I'm surprised to see Max Verstappen in the car already. getting ready to go out there on track, we do see something in his one brake. I wonder if that's a bit of a sensor or something. But yeah, interesting that Max Verstappen is already in the car. Normally he waits for quite some time, but yeah, maybe we'll get him going out pretty quickly in this session, just to start getting to grips with a wet Zandvoort track. All the fans getting ready for action out on the Zandvoort track, and now not long until we get running. 1 minute left. Lando Norris has got his helmet on, not in the car just yet, but he will be getting into his car very soon. His teammate, his car had to be rebuilt overnight with the mechanics breaking the curfew. This is the second time they've done that this season. They're allowed 2 free curfew breaks, and they've used up both of them. AlphaTauri using up their first one, of course, with Daniel Ricciardo causing that late night for the AlphaTauri mechanics. But yeah, disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo not to be able to participate this race weekend, where he was looking like he was going to possibly be able to get it into the top 10. We do wish Daniel Ricciardo, though, a speedy recovery. Hopefully we will see him in that AlphaTauri again very soon. He has got one of the absolute best surgeons, one of the surgeons that normally takes care of all of the MotoGP riders, so hopefully he will be able to get back into a race car within the end of the month.
We do have green lights here, and Max Verstappen's already made his way out onto track on full wet tyres. Of course, it's an hour-long session, so I'm quite surprised at the fact that Max Verstappen's immediately come out. I thought a lot of teams would probably wait just a little bit before getting out there, but Max Verstappen has decided not to at all. As we said, was in the car early and has gone straight out into the track.
It's actually not as wet as I thought out there. There's not as much spray being picked up by Max Verstappen's car. As I said, though, because of the nature of the circuit with all of the banked corners, the undulating rises as well, that really does help the runoff with all of the water. We do see in a few sectors, though, some rivers running across the track, but hopefully with these drivers out on full wets, they'll be able to clear all of that standing water quite quickly. Liam Lawson, the rookie, in his first outing for AlphaTauri, also gets out onto track now, making his way through turn 3, where his counterpart lost it yesterday in that exact same car.
Yeah, so I'm sure he's going to be very much wary of that turn to try and avoid having the same sort of mistake. Wasn't really, to be fair, a mistake from Daniel Ricciardo. Had to avoid a crash there, so I'm sure he will not have to deal with any of that sort of thing during the weekend. But of course, he will be watching more Piastri, though, to see how he lost it in that section as well, which resulted in Daniel Ricciardo's crash after that. So just Verstappen and Lawson have come out to go and assess conditions, to go and see the track right now. As you say, lots of much drier patches around the track as well, but Max Verstappen is actually starting a race simulation run, or at least maybe a quali run. So he's not come back into the pits. It's not just a sight a lap. He's actually going another round, another time around the track. He seems to be going a lot quicker. So I think he's actually trying to put in a half-decent lap. So I'm sure we're going to go and see his car now in just a little bit if the cameras should decide to go and pan to him. But otherwise, we'll see what Lawson does as he's also coming around. Maybe he'll come into the pits, or maybe he'll start a fast lap as well.
Yes, just waiting to finally be shown Max Verstappen's lap time. We're being shown Lawson for some reason on a warm-up lap. But yes, just waiting to see what Max Verstappen can do here in the wet. I still don't know why we're being shown Lawson on a warm-up lap when Max Verstappen's doing a push lap.
Yeah, so Lawson is going to start a push lap, to be fair, at least. And for some reason, we're going to follow his lap times, not Max Verstappen's. Of course, this is the first time we're seeing Liam Lawson out in an F1 car, so I suppose that's probably why the cameras are panning to him, and immediately
takes the first corner very
wide, yeah.
But that could be due to all of the standing water out on track. You often take different lines in the wet. You really want to avoid those white lines of the edges of the track. As I say that, he does go a little bit wide there and touches the white lines, but at least in that turn 3, it's a little less tricky, and you're not really going to get slid out by them. But in these other sectors, you really want to avoid all of the curbs in the wet, because it could really upset your car. And the white lines, as I say, that drivers need to avoid, it's because they're really slippery.
Yeah, and so we've seen Max Verstappen now cross the line in a 1 minute 27.5 in those full wet tyres. Few more cars making their way out. It's Liam Lawson, sorry, that I think it's got on your timer there. So be aware, Ricciardo is not available for the rest of this weekend. It will be Liam Lawson in his place.
It's also showing him on Inter, so I don't know what's going on with our partners this weekend, but nonetheless, we'll let you know on our side where everyone is standing in terms of the timing boards.
Yeah, so Liam Lawson now ending up his lap. There's just a few corrections there going into that final sector. Just quite wet in some parts and a little bit dry in others. So we've got both McLarens out on track. We've got George Russell, we've got Sergio Perez, Guan Yu Zhou, Liam Lawson, of course, and Max Verstappen. The rest of the drivers all in the pits. So Liam Lawson a lot slower than Max Verstappen's time. Max Verstappen 1:27.5. Liam Lawson will cross the line in a 1:35.08.
Okay, so Ocon is Lawson on our timing sheets. I don't know what is going on with our partners this weekend. They've messed it up every single session. But we will let you know where everyone stands. So at the moment, Max Verstappen is at the top of the timing boards, followed by Liam Lawson. Quite a big difference between those two drivers, though. Max Verstappen's time being a 1:27.5, Lawson's time a 1:35.088. Just watching a moment from Max Verstappen coming into turn 3. Does he have a bit of a snap? Yes, he does.
Oof,
as I thought, he goes over the white lines there, and he says, I don't know what happened there, just suddenly lost all the grip. I think it was, as I said, his rear tires may have just touched that white line. Yes, it did, and that causes him to slide as he comes onto the throttle pickup, and he just has a little bit of snap there, but is able to keep his car going. Yes, as I see there on that slow-mo, he ever so slightly touches that white line, and it's the same in motocross, same in mountain biking, well, road cycling. You rarely stay away from any white lines when it is wet. Max Verstappen picking up a lot of dirt, though, as he goes over those curbs.
Yeah, I mean, he's got into the grassy section there. Does well to stay out of the wall because got very close to it. But has immediately come in and they just did a practice tyre swap there onto the mediums. Not that he'll go be using the mediums in this session. I'm sure we'll see only inters and wets for most of it. Liam Lawson on the radio saying it's raining quite a lot right now, so rain is not looking like it's going to subside at all. Just go to our comments here. Marion, of course, just hoping and get that Danny gets better. Of course, that being Daniel Ricciardo. Cody Foster saying, come on, Lando. Indeed, we are looking at Lando Norris. He's on the intermediate tyre, notably not the wet tyre. So let's see how he fares in this session right now. Wyanda saying, almost thought you would be
Lando Norris up in the middle sector at the moment. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark, but Lando Norris is putting in some good sectors now. He's on a set of intermediates, though, so he is the only one out there on a set of inters right now. Let's see what he can do coming through the final sector, coming around that final banked corner. He crosses the line and puts himself into third place, so he lost quite a bit of time in that final sector. Probably not ready just yet for inters.
No, not at all. Just going back to the comments here, got some Dutch being spoken in the comments.
Ooh,
so
Perez goes off the track there as well now, so quite a few drivers finding it quite tricky out on track. Sorry, Mark.
No,
but I
good.
think what is happening out on track is a little bit more important right now.
Yes, we've still got 53 minutes left of the session, so lots of time to commentate about other things and otherwise and talk about
And
stuff.
Perez comes straight into the pits after his moment. So, not many drivers out on track. So far, we still have Gasly, Alonso, Leclerc, Stroll, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz, all still in the pits. Just watching this moment from Sergio Perez, he just, I think, locks it up a little bit and then has to run into the gravel trap in turn 11. Very lucky not to get caught there. And that gravel trap, the gravel traps here in Zandvoort are so deep. We even got a recovery vehicle stuck in it yesterday in the Formula 2 race. Or Formula 2 qualifying, should I say.
Yeah, exactly that. So very dangerous to go off into the gravel traps and otherwise. So Perez gets out of there, goes straight to the pits. And now we're seeing some more laps being pushed in from other drivers. Bottas has gone, well, it's actually, I think it's Guan Yu Zhou. So our timing board, I do apologize for that. It's all over the place a little bit. So let's just go and reiterate. No, I think it's correct.
No, it's not.
Well, Bottas has now gone second
Okay.
fastest, so I think that is correct because I think Tsunoda will also cross the line and probably go right up there into third place. So we're going to see that now, although Guan Yu Zhou's time is currently not sitting correctly in that timing board. So let me just run you through exactly where everybody sits right now. We've got Max Verstappen in 1, Bottas in 2, Albon in 3, Zhou in 4, Norris in 5, Sargent 6, Lawson 7, Piastri and the rest of the grid haven't yet to get out onto track. So we've only got 7 times, and those are those 7 positions.
Piastri is currently finishing up a lap. As I say that, though, he abandons it, backs off a little bit, maybe because he was catching some traffic. And it looks like he's starting another push lap. There is a big cloud system, though, overhead that could be making its way over this track, which is why I think drivers are trying to get out there as quickly as possible to get in some good lap times. And then hopefully they will be able to get some data before qualifying later this afternoon. Just watching in the McLaren pit box at the moment, is this Oscar Piastri having a bit of a moment here? No, this is Lando Norris going very wide and hitting the curbs a bit too deep there. Still able to keep his car all 4 wheels on the track, but hopefully he hasn't caused any floor damage by hitting that curb a little bit too deep.
Yes, but so just taking it a little bit narrow there, the curve, just taking it too much on the apex. and getting quite bumpy there for him. Just watching another moment here. This is of the Williams. I think that is Liam Lawson.
Logan Sargent.
Oh, sorry, what am I talking about? Liam Lawson. This is the wrong team completely, as you said. Logan Sargent, sorry, wrong L.
Red flag.
Red flag. We do have a red flag on track. Let's see who it is.
As Alonso's going
Oh dear, it's the Haas.
It's another Haas.
It's a Haas. Let's see who it is. It looks to be, is that
That's
Hulkenberg again. Once more, he caused a red flag in session practice 1 yesterday.
He's completely facing the wrong way. I think he's broken a suspension there as well.
That's
It's
Kevin Magnussen.
Sorry. I can never tell the difference between these two Haas cars. Their numbers are just illegible on these cars. But yes, Magnussen now on the radio saying, sorry guys, he just lost it there. Unfortunately, I think he has broken his front left suspension.
Yeah, so an immediate red flag with 50 minutes left of the session. So really early stop to the action out there. We will get a recovery vehicle out there, I'm sure, soon. And probably get the practice going again in just about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes time. Kevin Magnussen now exiting the car. Gunther Steiner really not very impressed. That's two drivers, both his drivers, crashing out in both 2 different practice sessions. Yesterday was Nico Hulkenberg in practice 1. Didn't damage the car, luckily. Just went into the gravel and couldn't get out. Kevin Magnussen now watching a replay of exactly where he makes this mistake here. It's coming out of turn 3 and he just loses it completely. Spins into the wall there. And I think he hits it with his rear and maybe just spins back around with his front. Didn't quite see it as the advertising board's got in the way.
It's not even on a hot lap. It's straight out the pits, cold tires. Comes around turn 3. Let's see what happens here. Does he make the same mistake as Max Verstappen? No, he doesn't. But I think there was just a little bit of standing water there. Picks it on, picks up the throttle on throttle pickup. Completely loses the rear end. Spins him around, hits the front left on the barriers. And that is his session over.
Yeah, so very disappointing. It wasn't even at high speed, and yet just so easily broke the car there. And now looking at Ayo Komatsu, Director of Engineering of Haas. Of course, he's got lots of stuff to go and do with Magnussen's car now, of course, with that broken front left. So officials and marshals onto the track here to go and recover that vehicle. And as I say, just once more, we are in red flag conditions. So let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts about the fact that the Haas have gone into both 2 different practice sessions and caused red flags with either driver. I mean, really not looking so great this weekend with regards to their efficiency on track. And Liam Lawson, early signs say that he is, well, let's see, he's Ocon technically on our thing there. Quite a slow time from him. So, yeah, we'll see how it fares for the rest of the weekend. We've still got 48 minutes left of the session, and we are in the wets for the first time. The Ferraris were going to get ready to come out. Carlos Sainz, though, in the pits here and coming back in. Of course, looking at his 5 previous races, 5th, 6th, 10th, 8th, and then the last one in Belgium did not finish. So, yeah, not the greatest form for Ferrari.
Yes, I think just getting caught out there, a little bit unlucky when they were just about to go out. The red flag was waved, but they should be able to get some more running a little bit later. Just looking at Lando Norris's car, there may be a bit of damage on that floor. The mechanics are looking at it quite intently down there, so hopefully there isn't too much damage. If there is, they've got some time at least to fix it and sort it out before qualifying later this afternoon, but certainly not what they would be wanting to do at the moment is getting another new floor on that car.
Just now looking at Fernando Alonso, he currently sits 3rd on the Drivers' Championship with 149 points. Now, it's quite crucial that he should find some form again for that Aston Martin team to get the points and to try and solidify his chances of getting somewhere near the top with his Drivers' Championship. Though this Aston Martin's new upgrades don't seem to have been a massive improvement as we are hoping they would be. So we'll have to wait to see what happens in qualifying later. Maybe there is some more performance to be found in those cars, but doesn't look like it's going to be a successful weekend for Aston Martin.
I always get so nervous when these cars get hauled up on cranes. I mean, we've seen in the past a Haas fall into 2 when it was lifted up on a crane, so I'd rather not see that again. But yeah, that was of course after a big shunt by Mick Schumacher. But luckily, not too much damage caused to that Haas. Just the front left suspension, hopefully, is the extent of the damage. Just looking at these Mercedes air intakes, they are so differently playing to every other team on the grid. Hopefully, that will bring them some extra pace this weekend. The team boss, Toto Wolff, and Lewis Hamilton were looking very happy yesterday after their practice session. Looking quite happy with the pace in their car. Hopefully, that is a good indicator for the rest of the season. Maybe they just have gotten to the bottom of their porpoising issues. Maybe they're just feeling a lot more comfortable. And now we are going to see Kevin Magnussen doing the walk of shame back into the pits.
Yeah, indeed. So really not great from Kevin Magnussen, causing that red flag with his accident there in turn 3.
Mark is just going to go get some water so he can carry on commentating for you guys, but I will keep you going through this red flag session. 45 minutes left of this current free practice 3 session. And yeah, just disappointing watching this replay of Kevin Magnussen's moment into turn 3. He comes through so slowly. And I mean, as I said, cold tires, just a little bit too eager on throttle pickup maybe. Spins the car around, smacks his left rear into the barriers, and that is his session over for today. Yeah, certainly not going to be what he wanted going into qualifying later this afternoon. Yeah, just very unfortunate there with that banked corner on throttle pickup. You have to be so cautious with cold tires, and I think Kevin Magnussen has learned that now. 45 minutes and 0 seconds left of the session. We are just waiting for this red flag to be released. That car has now been removed from the circuit. I think they're just having a little bit of a look at the barriers. Hopefully there shouldn't be any issues with those. I don't think he hit it all that hard. But yeah, it is looking quite gusty out there on track as well. We are seeing these clouds moving further overhead on track. I see a little bit of a blue patch overhead. Hopefully we'll see some clearer running later this afternoon. Red flag still being waved though for this free practice 3 session. These Dutch fans though, they don't care. Come rain or shine, they are always more than happy to sit in the grandstands and watch their favourite driver Max Verstappen. On this date in 1984, McLaren secured their 2nd Constructors' Championship at the Dutch Grand Prix. They'll certainly be wanting to have another good race weekend this weekend. Hopefully they'll be able to challenge for pole position and maybe a race win with their papaya-coloured cars. Landon Norris always says, yeah, great to see that all of these fans love McLaren so much around here. We won't tell them that they are all dressed in orange for Max Verstappen, but he always loves this track here. Just waiting still for the green flag to be waved, as I think it now has been released, and the session will be resumed in 1 minute's time at 11:47 local time. So let me see on my clock how many seconds we have left. We have about 10 seconds left until this session gets going yet again for free practice 3. The red flag has been removed and we are now going again for free practice 3. Mark is back. He has some water so he doesn't die while we're commentating for you guys. We'll also be having a good look at Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso, who were both setting some good lap times before the red flag was brought out. F123 saying, as a fellow New Zealander, I'm very proud to have another New Zealand driver on the grid. Interestingly, that Liam Lawson is the first New Zealander to be on the grid since Brendan Hartley. I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah, so good to see another New Zealander on the grid. And yeah, replacing an Australian in Daniel Ricciardo, of course, who broke his hand yesterday. So we have resumed the session. Valtteri Bottas makes his way out. And it's been consistently in the midfield looking at his last 5 races. 10th, 15th, 12th, 12th, and 12th again. Will he get another 12th this weekend? We'll see.
Well, we'll see with Mr. Consistency, Valtteri Bottas, but I'm sure he'll be wanting to get into the points, not necessarily 12th. A lot of rumours going around this race weekend that Zhou Guanyu is not going to be picked up again by the I keep wanting to say Alpine, the Alfa Romeo team next year. He is currently apparently having a bit of financial struggles with backing for him to keep him in the sport, and they're possibly looking at putting either Felipe Drugovich in that seat or Teo Porcher. Teo Porcher has a lot more backing than Zhou Guanyu. A lot of people were hoping he'd stay in the sport because he does at least bring a lot more viewership from China, but the sport is all about money, and unfortunately if you can't afford to be in that race seat, then someone else can.
Yeah, and just want to take this moment just to apologize for the timing boards. You are seeing a whole lot of names there who aren't actually there in those positions there. They've somehow messed up these timing boards. I think with different drivers coming in yesterday, with the fact that, of course, Rob Schwartzman came in for Ferrari.
Yes.
And then we saw the fact that now Liam Lawson, of course, has come in place of Daniel Ricciardo. All of the names are all over the place in terms of that. So just to run you through exactly where everybody sits right now, it's in fact Verstappen, Bottas, Albon, Zhou, Norris, Sargent, Lawson, Piastri, Russell, and Perez is our top 10.
So Lando Norris just asking on the radio, is this rain going to get worse? And then being told that we think it's going to stay like this for a little bit. We'll get a small break and then another 10 to 15 minutes of rain. So hopefully it stays around about like this. It doesn't hopefully get any worse. But I quite enjoy wet sessions. It gives us quite a lot to look forward to, especially for qualifying if it's going to be a wet session later this afternoon. Just looking at this cell, trying to see where it's moving. It's not necessarily showing where it's moving at the moment, but might just be sticking with us for a little bit longer.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it's moving anywhere too quickly, so I'm sure we're going to have rain for most of the session, so I won't see any dry tyres come out. And that's also going to be the same for qualifying later today, so yeah, I'm sure lots of drivers are getting out onto track just so they can go and see exactly what sort of times they can put in for qualifying later, of course. So yeah, we'll see what happens now as Hamilton is going round on his first hot lap attempt.
He's on a set of intermediates, crucially. So it looks like the track is now dry enough for a set of intermediates. The first couple of drivers went out in the set of full wet. Those times are still the fastest out there. But Hamilton now 4.3 seconds down on Verstappen's time on a set of inters. So I think maybe teams just trying to stick to different strategies, see what works in this conditions, tries to find out what is going to be best for qualifying later this afternoon. Clearly the full wets are the ones to be on at the moment.
Yeah, as I say, Hamilton going around relatively slowly. It's going to be about a 130 if he's lucky, 131, 132 almost looks like. Yeah, it's a 133 in fact, 0.2 for Hamilton there. So quite a bit slower on those intermediate
Slowest
tires.
lap time of the day.
Yeah, slowest lap time so far. The wets still showing the quickest times. So Verstappen's out on track, so is Bottas, so is Zhou, Norris, Lawson, and Gasly, Hamilton. Russell is also out on track. I think Leclerc and Tsunoda have also made their way onto the track now, so we'll see some times getting put in from them as we also panning out to Mercedes, seeing of course Mick Schumacher, he's of course reserve driver for Mercedes, so let's see what he can do next season. Maybe he comes in place of Guan Yu Zhou.
Well, I don't know. It's difficult to say because, of course, there is just so many people in the driver market that could go and move seats. There's so many young drivers who have great potential for a Formula 1 seat. Leclerc comes across the line and sets the new fastest lap time on a set of full wets, 0.2 up on Max Verstappen's fastest time. So, yeah, great to see the Ferraris finding some pace out here in the wet.
Oh, and
immediately almost into the wall there. Very, very luckily able to stop it from nosing into the barriers there. He now takes to the runoff road, and thank goodness he does not have another crash.
Yeah, indeed. So he just keeps himself out of the wall there. So very interesting the fact that he goes and sets the fastest lap time and then almost immediately crashes out. So luckily keeps himself outside of the wall. So is all good for Ferrari there.
At the moment, Lando Norris is now the fastest driver on track. He has beaten that lap time from Charles Leclerc with a 126, the first one to 126
and on inters
in the wet. Yes, so finally the inters are starting to come into their own as Max Verstappen goes purple in the middle sector. So clearly this track drying out quite quickly here with lots of drivers all going around the circuit. Max Verstappen has a little bit of a slide coming through turn 13, now coming through turn 14, that final banked corner, gets released from the banking, comes down that start runner straight. Where does this lap time put him? He goes fastest now with a 125.1, 1.5 seconds above Lando Norris's fastest times on those inters. This track is evolving very, very quickly out here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, so I'm sure we're going to see most drivers now on those intermediate tyres. Definitely the quicker set of tyres than those on the wets. Tsunoda has pushed himself into 7th on those wet tyres. Still 3.6 seconds behind Verstappen's time. So we still currently have Verstappen, Norris, and Leclerc as our top three. Leclerc, the fastest wet tyre run, which looked to be quite a quick run right before Norris and Verstappen went and beat this time straight afterwards. So I'm sure we're going to see more people coming out on those intermediate tyres. Fernando Alonso still in the pits there. He's been inside his car for most of the session, so I don't quite know why he's not got back out onto track.
He was out right before the red flag was released, but he was going quite fast in that first sector. Then, of course, he had to abandon the lap because of the red flags. So we'll see what he's able to do when he eventually ventures out on track later this morning, hopefully, not this afternoon. Lance Stroll, currently his teammate, is out on track on a set of full wets, 1.4 seconds off of Max Verstappen's fastest time. That should still put him ahead of Lando Norris if he's able to keep that delta going. Valtteri Bottas also on a flyer at the moment, 0.5 down on Max Verstappen's time. Zhou Guanyu also on a flyer, 0.6 down on Verstappen's time. Lots of times being put on the boards at the moment. We do apologize for our timing boards though. We will try and keep you updated on that. It is looking a little bit better at the moment though in terms of timing. They have updated it with Liam Lawson's name finally on that board. And
I think they have fixed the other names as well who were broken. So I think we've finally now got an accurate timing board. So they have gone and fixed that. So very grateful to go and have that fixed. So now it is all correct. Just confirming here, just looking at between the two, they are correct. So cool. We are now updated and fully much functional here. Stroll now finishing up his lap on those wet tires. It's going to be quite a slow one. I mean, he's already behind Max Verstappen's time. And already behind
the rain is really coming down now as well, a lot harder. We can see the amount of spray being kicked up by these cars is a lot more than the lap before. The rain is really coming down torrentially. We're seeing these intermediate tyre runners really struggling out there as we see Pierre Gasly.
And we've got another red flag coming in.
Zhou Guanyu is stuck in the gravel trap.
Oh dear. So we'll have another red flag here. Yeah, indeed, confirmed. Red flag, Guanyu Zhou in the gravel there.
The crane is already lowering itself down to pick him up.
He's like, crane driver, so he's just like, another one, let's go.
Yeah, this is the feature race for crane drivers today, not for the actual Formula 1 drivers. Zhou Guanyu very much stuck in the gravel trap in turn 13. He comes through that turn very slowly and just
nicks that white line.
It's because as well, it's just raining a lot harder now and those intermediates are not able to clear as much water. Unfortunately, does he touch that white line though? He doesn't though.
Just get close to it, yeah. Very interesting. So he just came off the slightly drier line in those intermediate tyres, and of course with a bit more wet coming down and with a bit more rain, just causes that slide there.
Just watching what happened to Pierre Gasly, he takes the runoff zone much like Pierre Gasly, much like Sergio Perez did earlier on this afternoon in turn 11 and 12. He has to go to that runoff zone and go through the gravel. And luckily, he didn't get caught like his fellow driver Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, so Zhou Guanyu is out of this session as well. So there's two drivers now out of the session. First was Kevin Magnussen crashing.
Jolyon Palmer? No, it's not. That looked like Jolyon Palmer on the pit crew there.
So
this is our second red flag of the session. Zhou Guanyu is now out of the car, and that crane is lowering itself down to pick up the stricken Alfa Romeo that is stuck in the gravel trap at the moment. 176 of you watching alongside with us at the moment. Thank you very much for joining us for this free practice 3 session. Do be sure to join us for qualifying later. It is going to be held on our Forever Motorsports channel, our dedicated motorsports channel for Forever Sports. Do be sure to go and look at that channel, subscribe to it if you want to catch all the Formula 1 content. I'm going to be spending a lot of time and effort on that channel. That is now my absolute dedication for the rest of this year. And yeah, let's see if we can grow that as much as possible before the end of this race weekend. We'd love to get to 400 subscribers. We're quite close to 200 at the moment, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, lots of content though, as I say, being put out there. Lots of short content as well as daily Formula 1 news videos. Just watching now, Zhou Guanyu's car finally being picked up by this crane, and hopefully we should get green flag conditions very soon yet again.
Indeed. So, red flag conditions right now. 32 minutes left of this session. Drivers still yet to put times on the board. We've got Russell, Perez, Ocon, Alonso, Magnussen, Sainz, and Stroll. Of course, Magnussen will not put any times in. He crashed out. But both Aston Martins have not put a time in. Sergio Perez is also yet to put a time in after going into the gravel, as you mentioned earlier. So, Carlos Sainz also yet to put a time in. So, lots of big names that still have to go and get some attempts in. Lando Norris right now making his 95th Grand Prix start this weekend, surpassing the career total of Juan Pablo Montoya. So quite a feat that as well.
Some people ask me in the comment section what time qualifying is. Qualifying is at 3 p.m. local time in Zandvoort. It is the same time as it is here in South Africa. So it is 3 hours and 2 minutes from now.
Yes, exactly that. So it'll happen 2.5 hours after the end of the session. And we will have the F2 sprint race in between that. So don't go anywhere. We're going to drag you on into Forever Motorsports, which will then do the qualifying stream. And you will also get told about the F2 sprint race there as well.
Yes, now we're seeing the Alfa Romeo flying, not on track, but in the air. Yeah, finally being recovered off of the track. Thank goodness we should be able to get green flag conditions again. Hopefully this allows, though, it looks like it's not raining anymore, which is good. This allows maybe the track to dry out a little bit and we can get some faster lap times being put in by all of the how many drivers are left now? 18 drivers left on the grid.
Yes, indeed. So 2 drivers out of this session. We saw red flags in both sessions yesterday. Is this a precursor for not just qualifying, but the race as well? But we're going to see some yellow flags,
100%.
safety cars, and otherwise?
100% if we get wet racing in the race, I think we're going to see a lot of moments like this. We haven't had a red flag for quite some time in a race, but I think this weekend is going to be the one to break that clean streak. Yeah, once again, we have a weekend that is affected by rain. We haven't had a dry race weekend since Miami in May.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, this. So, yeah, just looking at our viewers right now, it's just over 200 viewers. And again, guys, please go and check the chat. I'm going to put it in the link there again. Please go and subscribe to our brand new, well, I keep saying brand new. It's not brand new, but the channel that we're going to be using a lot more going forward. That, of course, being Forever Motorsports. So please go and subscribe to that channel so you can be notified about F1 content and motorsport content, and you won't be seeing any other sports as well. So just purely in the motorsport world, which is exactly what most of you want. So be sure to go and subscribe to that, and you'll see Reese a lot more on that channel as well.
Yes, now that car is finally being removed from the track. Hopefully it should get going very soon. It does look like things are starting to clear out a little bit. I say that, but there's a massive rainstorm in the distance. Hopefully that stays there. Please don't let that come near the track. Mark is now pasting that channel description in, well, the channel link in our chat. So please do be sure to follow that link and go and subscribe to our Forever Motorsports channel. I see we have 189 subscribers there now. Please, let's get that to 200, 300, 400, 1,000. Let's get it to as many subscribers as possible. It is always great to have a dedicated motorsport community to follow on all of my daily live news shows that I have going at 10 o'clock every day during the week. And yes, lots of short breaking news videos going up throughout the days, keeping you updated on everything motorsport related. So Joe just saying on the radio when he beached himself, being asked if he could continue, and he says, no, sorry, I have unfortunately beached the car. And that is, for the second time today, we're saying another driver has ended his day in free practice 3.
So just some questions we could ask the comments section. Be sure to go and participate in the poll as well in terms of who's going quickest this session. But who is going to go top of qualifying? We saw Lando Norris very quick yesterday. Now, it's going to be a wet qualifying session, so we haven't really seen those sort of times. So we're going to have to guesstimate in terms of who's going to be our top 3. But who do you reckon is going to be the top 3? Let us know in the comments. But Reese, who's your top 3?
Difficult to say. I'm going to say Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is looking quite fast up there at the moment. Lewis Hamilton hasn't really found as much time on those intermediates. I was going to say Lewis Hamilton, maybe second or third. But yeah, I don't really know. These Mercedes, I think they need a little bit more time to get them to grips in the wet conditions.
Yeah, I think that's also a very good point. I was actually going to go, funny enough, I don't know we haven't seen him put a lap time in, but just knowing how quick he is in the wet, I was going to say Fernando Alonso should be right up there as well. So I'm going to say Verstappen 1, Norris 2, Alonso 3. So yeah, that's probably my prediction, and we'll probably have a couple of Ferrari drivers after that.
Poor Liam Lawson, he was really just shot into this race heat. He hasn't even had time to get a Formula 1 style helmet for himself. He's still wearing his Super Formula helmet that has his Rodin team emblem on the front. He's doing quite well at the moment in Super Formula. He had a massive shunt though last weekend. I spoke about that in my live news video. Luckily he wasn't injured. Neither were any of the other drivers. We finally do have a session resumption time, and it will be in 1 minute. Yes.
Indeed. So just looking at the comments just regarding my question there. So I see Cody Foster said Lando on pole, hopefully. So he's backing Lando Norris to go on pole.
There, Cody.
And so is F123 saying Lando P1, Max P2, and Albon in P3. Now Albon's an interesting shout there. I don't think he will, just because in the wet that Williams doesn't perform as well as the other drivers. But it's a great shout. I'd love to see Albon up there. So just looking now, the time has resumed now. The green flag has been given, so cars will make their way back out onto track. We are resuming this session. So 26 minutes and 30 seconds left. And yeah, we are all good to go. Some drivers in their cars. I mean, I'm quite interested to see the fact that Lando Norris's helmet has not been wiped of the water that's on his visor there, which is quite interesting.
Well, what's the point? It's going to get wet again. So you kind of just leave it there. As soon as you get up to speed, the forces of the air push away all of the water from the visor. As he now does make his way out on track, we will have 26 minutes and 5 seconds left of this session. We have I want to say Alex Albon. It is Logan Sargent now at the end of the pit lane. He will be the first driver out there for this session.
And he's followed very closely by Ferrari there. I think that is in fact Sainz.
Yes.
So yeah, Sainz has not got a single lap time in this session so far. It's been a bit unfortunate with those red flags. He was about to start one right before Kevin Magnussen found himself in the wall. And I think he was also about to start one again when Guan Yu Zhou found himself in the gravel. So finally, I think he's going to try and get out there ASAP just to get some lap times in before anybody else decides to go and crash. I think we might well have another red flag in this session. Just 25 minutes left, of course. And we've got 4 cars that have made their way out onto track. That is Lando Norris, Sargent, Lawson, and Carlos Sainz.
Yes, I think it's going to be a very interesting qualifying session ahead of us. Well, I was going to say tomorrow, but later this afternoon. I think there's a few drivers who have a shout at that pole position. Max Verstappen, of course, is going to be the favoured one for that pole position, but I don't think it's going to be given to him today.
No, I don't. And just going back to the comments here, just seeing what people are saying. So Mickey's asking, will it rain tomorrow, guys? It is predicted to be raining for most of tomorrow. Manjeet's saying Max is going to finish in first on pole, Lewis in second, and Lando Norris in third. Probably a good prediction as well.
Not many people rating Fernando Alonso in the wet. I think he's also going to be one that could surprise a few people out here today. I'm waiting for him to finally go on a run. He's still in the pits at the moment with no lap time on the board. Come on, Fernando, just show us what you're able to do here today. I want to see what the potential is for later this afternoon.
Yeah, and indeed, what's also interesting is Carlos Sainz is about to start his lap here. He's on full wet, whereas Lando Norris behind him is on the intermediate tyre still. So I'm intrigued to see what will happen here. Maybe Lando Norris might have come out on the wrong tyre because, of course,
we did have more rain.
We've had more rain, so
we're seeing the tyres displacing a lot of water from off the track and a lot of water going on the visor. Locks up, does exactly what his teammate did earlier. Luckily, still able to keep it out of the barriers, but that is his first hot lap attempt, aborted already in the first corner.
Yeah, Lando Norris will, of course, overtaken, and Carlos Sainz timing it very, very well there. Almost a bit too well. Almost came off the track at the exact same moment that Lando Norris passed him there. So Lando Norris will continue on his hot lap in the intermediate tyres, whereas Carlos Sainz will now follow him on those wets. And just watching a replay here of him badly locking up into turn 1 and just having to abort that turn. Keeps himself out of the barriers very easily and just goes and takes that runoff piece of road there right at the end of the track.
Yes, big lockup on his front right, but no flat spots. Just very, very wet out there on track still.
Yeah, and indeed, another prediction that we got here from Marianne was Max Alonso Piastri. So there you go. Someone backing
Alonso. Thank you.
Yes,
Marianne.
somebody backing Alonso to do something in the wet. So great to see there. Guys, again, if you guys are joining us on the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video as well. Be sure to go and smash that like button. And also, again, go and check the chat. Just scroll up a little bit. Go and see the link for our other channel, our dedicated Formula 1 channel. We're going to be doing qualifying there.
That maybe in the chat there, Mark.
Not a bad idea. It's exactly that what I should be doing.
Yes, as you scroll to find it. But we do have 220 of you going, watching alongside with us at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda currently hooking up a lap for himself. Please do be sure to go ahead and subscribe to that channel. A lot of Motorsport content is going to be put on there. I'm putting a lot of effort into that channel, so please do be sure to go and check that out. Yuki Tsunoda now making his way through the middle sector. Let's see what his second sector time will be here. 2.3 seconds down on Max Verstappen's time. That puts him around Albon's time in 9. Not too bad, but yeah, we expect him to pick up the pace a little bit more.
Well, let's just see. We're just talking about Yuki Tsunoda here. So I think he might well get quite high up here. Let's just go and see what happens with him. He's coming around the final couple of bends. Yeah, it's not going to be that quick. But
as I said, he's 2 seconds off of Max Verstappen's time. This should put him fourth position.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's quite as low down as you said it was. Max Verstappen's time a lot quicker than everybody else, almost a whole 2 seconds.
There, yeah.
So
I was expecting it still to be a 127, so I was looking for a 129 for him to finish. But good lap time there from Yuki Tsunoda. He also seemingly enjoys the wet. Sergio Perez now out on a set of intermediates, hooking up a fast lap for himself here. Let's see what he's able to do. He was not able to show his true potential at the end of, I think 30-minute mark was where he was putting in another lap time, and then the red flag was brought out yet again. I think he's aborted though because he did get a little bit wide there into turn 3.
Yeah, indeed, exactly that. So, also, guys, we have a Discord channel now, a brand new Discord channel.
Lots of people joining us in there. That is also quite exciting to see people joining our Discord channel. Please do be sure to join it if you would like to, have some more Formula 1 content coming your way. And as well, always great to join a Formula 1 community where you guys can all make new friends and chat about all things Formula 1 and motorsport.
Yes, indeed. As Tia says, she wants more friends for F1 to go and help her out and go and join the channel, and you guys can have some discussions there. We'll be improving it as well, and we'll be editing it and just fixing it all up. But for now, it's good enough. You guys can definitely go and join and get some discussions going in that channel there as well. A Shaky Warrior has also joined us again, and his prediction is... is a brilliant one. I love it.
I was going to say before.
Yes, Sargent is number 1, Zhou number 2, and Stroll in number 3. So, as per usual, some very interesting predictions. Jeff Perez is now coming down the start finish straight. It's going to be quite a bit of a slower time compared to his... and
he's behind Tsunoda.
Yeah, all the way down in 9th, in fact, but behind 2 Alfa Romeos as well. Piastri goes 4th fastest, so just behind Leclerc. So, not
Norris
bad.
is up on Max Verstappen in the second sector. On a set of intermediates. This track, I think, is drying out a little bit now. Interestingly enough, that's a terrible camera angle from, I think, Sargent just breaking up a little bit. Let's see what he's able to do now through his final sector. Just breaking up ever so slightly every time we watch him. He's very close to the back of Lando Norris. Norris will get a good tug there down this back straight. Lando Norris does take the fastest lap time by 0.1 seconds.
It's only something that's now 2 sessions that Norris has gone ahead of Max Verstappen. Only just 0.1 seconds between them, but Norris going quicker than Verstappen is a big, big thing. It means that the McLaren clearly still has a lot of pace as it did just before the break. So,
Piastri's up in the middle sector though. Mark Piastri is setting up a very good lap. Will he be able to match or beat his teammate here? I've said though, Piastri is really a one to watch for the future, and I think in the wet, showing he's got some good lap time, this will really show what he is made of here.
Oh my word, Russell going very, very wide into turn 1 there, and just having a big snap as well, so really not a great start to his lap.
Up into 3rd, Mark. Good lap time from the rookie here.
Yeah, fantastic lap time there. 125 as well, the 3rd 125 of the day, 125.8, so still 0.7 seconds or 0.6-ish seconds away from Verstappen's time. And 0.8 away from
3rd as well, finally. Not too bad from Sergio Perez. Of course, he gets pushed down to 4th by Piastri's time. But still not what we'd expect from Perez. We want him to be close to Verstappen.
It's exactly that. And somebody, in the comments, is just making some very good comments about that exact thing, saying, I just don't get Perez. How can he have the same car as Max and not be at least in the top 5? It kills the myth that you only need a good car to win. Indeed, it does do that exactly. So F123 saying, get in there, Lando, in terms of getting that first position right now in P3. So he's looking very quick going into qualifying later. So great to see Norris and Verstappen's time so close together. It certainly shows the McLaren's time is also Piastri's right there and thereabouts. The McLaren's are looking quick.
Yeah, interesting comment here from Ina, just saying Russell had a dig at Max by saying that there are 10 drivers on the grid who could win in that Red Bull. Surely, I mean, you can put 10 drivers in that car, they would win in a Red Bull. But if Max Verstappen is in that other seat, I think 10 out of 10 times they will not win.
Now, I think nobody's disputing the fact that Max Verstappen's form is just absolutely unbelievable. No driver is better than him.
Piastri goes on top at the moment on the timing boards with a 124.8. Brilliant from Piastri.
That's a fantastic drive.
What was I saying?
The McLarens are the 2 fastest cars out on the track right now. Of course, the track is clearly evolving quite a bit here, so let's see what sort of times Perez now puts in. Not too bad a time there, much quicker time, much closer to Max Verstappen's time, but still slower than both McLarens. Norris has got a purple first sector as well, so seeing these McLarens really put the pedal to the metal now. And let's see what sort of times they can put in.
I'm glad to see that they're working quite well in the wet, because it means that they have a wet weather car and a dry weather car. This means that we're going to have a great fight between the Red Bulls and the McLarens. Red Bull also have a very good wet race car. So I'm really, really glad to see that both of these cars are really hooked up on track at the moment. Lando Norris with a little correction into turn 13. Won't cost him too much time. Coming through that final bank corner, released from there now. Coming down that start finish straight, and he puts himself once again faster. Not anything faster, 1.2 seconds faster than his teammate Oscar Piastri.
Now looking at Stroll's time's not going to be too bad in comparison to where he was previously, although He's only 8th. I was expecting more if I'm quite honest. But Russell also now finishing up his lap. Where does he get put in compared to Norris? It's also going to be quite a slow time there. So Norris's time at 1:23.6, a hell of a lot quicker than Piastri, Perez, and Verstappen behind him. Verstappen, however, is now currently on an outlap. Let's see what he can do to respond to those two McLaren times, which are very, very impressive.
Yes, so we currently have 328 of you watching alongside with us. Please do be sure to check in the chat. There is a pinned comment there with the link for our new Motorsport channel that is dedicated for Formula 1 content, bringing you all the latest Formula 1 news, and I do a daily live show there. So if you want to catch all the latest Formula 1 news and breaking news, do be sure to check that link there in the chat, pinned at the top of the comments section. Just watching here, Fernando Alonso locking up, doing exactly the same as Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. Felipe Dragovic watching on in the Aston Martin.
Yes, indeed. And there's news about Felipe Dragovic, of course, with Guan Yu Zhou now out of the session after beaching his car in the gravel. It's going to just increase that that rumor there that Guan Yu Zhou might not have a seat next year. And it looks like Felipe Dragovic is one of those drivers being mentioned as to replace him in that
Felipe
Alfa Romeo.
Dragovic or Teo Porcher, both of them having a big backing financially, which of course brings a lot of support to that Alfa Romeo team, which don't necessarily have all that much money. Stroll puts himself up now into 5th. Brilliant lap time from him with
Now-
the 1:26.
Now, the interesting thing with Stroll going into 5th, but that's a good lap time there, is I want to see what Alonso can do, because I think
I
Alonso
agree.
can go at least 1.5 to 2 seconds quicker, in which case that puts
Russell
him right there
loses
and thereabouts.
himself now. Russell finding out some good track time there. Where's his teammate though? Hamilton is all the way down in 17th, 6.3 seconds off of I want to say Max Verstappen's time, but Lando Norris's fastest time at the moment.
He's just gone 10th now, Hamilton. Still quite slow. Piastri again has got a purple sector in sector 2. He's going quicker than Norris. Could Piastri dethrone his teammate in the session right now? The McLaren's just doing some unbelievable things. And Perez has now split the two McLarens and gone into 2nd position. Let's just see what Piastri's time is.
Alonso goes 7th now behind his teammate. So that comparison you wanted, not necessarily what we expected. Now we have Sainz crossing the line, he's in 12th. Piastri crosses the line into 2nd.
Just slow.
0.097 down on his teammate. Yes, very, very close. Someone asking there, how is Liam Lawson doing? Liam is currently down in 18th place.
He's the
running-
slowest of all
But he's
those.
running on a set of full wets. So I think he's just trying to get to grips with that car before he goes and does some
So get to grips, of course, on those wet tires, just making sure that he keeps out of the walls. Obviously, the Inter's a little bit less
Yellow
grippy,
flag.
I suppose.
Yellow
Yellow
flag.
flag, indeed.
who is stuck.
Green
Green
flag,
flag
we're
being
good.
shown again though, thank goodness.
Somebody probably into the gravel and then back out again. So just look at these McLaren sectors, all 3 of them.
Yellow flag. Oh,
well,
of course.
yeah.
Same one, sorry.
So I say. Just watching now the Ferrari. Ooh, it's an
That's
Alpine there.
Ocon. Has he broken his front wing? No. They just have really weird cutouts. It's in turn 1 again. Turn 1 is super slippery at the moment.
Indeed, we're almost up to 400 viewers, guys. So keep liking the video. Let's go and hit that like button and get us a few more likes there as well. And again, just one more time, go and check the pinned comment there. Go and subscribe to our dedicated Formula 1 channel. We're going to be doing qualifying on that channel, so be sure to go subscribe to that so you can be notified about that and join us for that
We
video.
are super close to 200 subscribers there. We're how many away? 9 subscribers away. So if all 300 of you go and subscribe there, that would be incredible because, yeah, we're trying to build that channel up as much as possible for you guys to build a dedicated Formula 1 community channel that brings all the latest Formula 1 news to the fans. And we'd love to get some of you guys on some fan cams and some fan reactions. We've been doing some great fan reaction videos this week.
Oh, he does go into
He
it.
does go into the barriers. Just watching Ocon, he rarely locks up there and the momentum just carries him straight into the barriers. Luckily, that wing doesn't get damaged, but yeah, just shows how tricky the conditions are out there on track at the moment.
Indeed, so not the first car. Quite a few cars have done
Red
the
flag.
Oh, we've got a red
for
flag.
Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson has, he is on the intermediate tyres, but Liam Lawson has, I think, spun around, so I think he's hit something because cars are going around the wrong way for him. So Liam Lawson, in his first ever session in Formula 1, has caused a red flag and he is out of this session. Really not a big confidence
He's
booster.
Out, or I don't see any damage to the car. I know he spun around because he's facing the wrong way. You don't have to point that out.
No, I'm showing,
That's pretty
I can
obvious.
see,
No,
I can
he's
see
still
that.
running. See, red flag is uncaused.
I'm just seeing where he might have just spun there. I'm just seeing a tire marks in the grass is what I was pointing out.
Yeah,
And I
but
think
what I was asking is why there's a red flag. It should have just been a double waved yellow. I think they were maybe thinking he was struck or stuck there on track. That was the word I was looking
Yeah,
for.
so
But I think we'll get this red flag being removed. pretty
poor
much
decision
immediately.
from the FIA. They're very, very trigger happy to that red
I
flag.
think though it's necessary. That is a very dangerous position on the track. If someone collected him, that could have been a massive accident. So, I mean, trigger happy, but the right call nonetheless.
Right, so we have a red flag here. Liam Lawson, though, is fine and has come back into the pits here, so he'll continue on the session. So, not too bad. They're causing a red flag, but not actually going to join the other two drivers in not being able to finish the session. Just watching the replay here of Liam Lawson losing it. He just goes onto the into the curve there a bit too much and spins out and does, as I say, go into that wall ever so slightly. Just watching that replay now again as he comes into that second to last corner and just goes on the apex and then just comes a little bit too wide onto that curve there and yeah, just spins it out and just, yeah, does get a bit of damage in the front of his car there, but should be all good.
Thank you to Marcus Enrique Barco for subscribing to our channel. I have all the notifications here coming through, so if you're subscribed, you may very well get a shout out on the stream. So just all the more for subscribing to our channel.
That is subscribing to the, of course, the pinned comments
Motorsport
channel.
Yes, of course.
So go and subscribe to that channel right now. Maybe you'll get a shout out. With this red flag, with just over 10 minutes to go, Liam Lawson in the pits now. They're just going to go and do some damage checks on that car, especially with the front wing, which did connect with the wall. So currently looking, Alonso is fourth fastest, 1.1 seconds behind Norris. Piastri and Norris number 1 and 2, Perez in third. Verstappen only down in sixth. He was about to set, I think, quicker laps, but then that red flag probably stopped him from doing so. So, yeah, it's all to race for in qualifying later.
Yes, someone was saying, I wish this session was qualifying. I don't. I think qualifying is going to be absolutely banging later on this afternoon. It is going to be so exciting. So much to fight for. We've got the two McLarens looking really, really competitive here today in wet conditions. This is going to be what we're going to get later this afternoon. And I think we have a four-way fight for pole this afternoon. Possibly even Alonso, who's now put himself up into fourth.
So
Yeah.
it's exactly that. I think it's going to be a very interesting qualifying session because obviously in the wet we'll see some different things sort of happen. I still think Max Verstappen will go fastest. Race control has confirmed that the session will resume right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will immediately resume the session, so we can come back out and we do see Max Verstappen make his way out immediately. I think he wants to go and get some good quality attempts in. Of course, he's currently sitting sixth, so he'll want to try and get ahead of that. And just confirming that that green light is now being shown and cars are making their way out onto the track again.
Just coming in with another great comment there. Thank you very much for providing us some great comments here in the comment section today. Piastri is the best rookie I've seen for a very long time. He can't touch Hamilton's rookie season. Of course not. I mean, Hamilton won the Drivers' Championship in his rookie season. Sorry to Piastri fans, but he definitely is holding his own against Norris. And what is great is his straight out the box kind of consistency. I mean, it's great to see. It's certainly a big shout for the future of Oscar Piastri. I think once he gets really comfortable in that team and starts making the team his own, he's going to be quite a force to reckon with.
I think also, you know, it's upsetting for Piastri because, of course, you know, at least Lewis Hamilton came into a McLaren team. Now, that car was a very, very good car, of course, when he won his championship. One wonders what would have happened if Piastri had come out in a Red Bull instead of Sergio Perez.
It would have been very, very competitive this season. But, I mean, has-beens, you can't keep looking into the past. But yeah, this track is looking a lot drier now. There's a big dry line that has been formed. Lots less spray being thrown off the cars in the majority of the sections. Max Verstappen's on a hot lap right now. Let's see what he's able to do. Going to be an interesting last couple of minutes from this session.
Yeah, Max Verstappen just finishing up his out lap. He's about to start a hot lap now. Just 7.5 minutes left of the session. So quite a lot of dry on the track. Not a lot of spray being kicked up at all. So they're going to try and make sure they can cool down these intermediate tyres in some parts. So you're going to see some interesting lines just to go and dive into a little bit of some wet water there and some wet parts of the track just to cool those tyres down a little bit as they go around. Max Verstappen now coming up to the final couple of corners before he starts his hot lap here. Which he'll look to try and get ahead of Norris and Piastri in terms of time.
Sorry, I apologise to Tekker's 318. Hamilton didn't win the drivers in his first season. He came second by 1 point.
Indeed, it's exactly that. Almost winning the Drivers' Championship. But now watching Max Verstappen come around that final bend and start his hot lap. Let's see the times that he manages to put in as he starts now.
Yes, Max Verstappen will certainly be putting in a very hot lap now with the track conditions looking a lot more favourable for a flying lap. Looking very neat and tidy through turn one, taking that apex quite wide. Little bit of a correction there from a bit of oversteer But now coming through turn 2 and turn 3, where we saw him lose it a little bit earlier on, looking neat and tidy there. He doesn't have a big snap of oversteer like he did earlier. Coming through turn 4, up and down there towards turn 5 and 6, yellow flag in sector 1.
Oh dear, it's
a Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
2/10 up in that first sector though.
Yeah, I think Max Verstappen will be able to complete his race at least, because Charles Leclerc is out of the wall and is carrying on. So we're all good. Green flag is shown. But Charles Leclerc did go into the wall exactly the same as Ocon. We've seen lots of drivers do that today already. So let's see how Max Verstappen fares in the second sector. Now he's coming up towards Norris's time of 57.6. Max Verstappen is going to probably improve that. I think he's going to put in a 57.3, it looks like. So quite a bit quicker than Norris right now overall. Over 0.5 seconds.
57.1 then. Verstappen now coming through that final sector. He's certainly going to be taking this fastest lap before the end of the session. 5 minutes and 43 seconds left to go. Max Verstappen makes his way through turn 13, now through turn 14. The heavily banked corners here. 19 degrees is what the banking is here. Now down that soft finish straight, he crosses the line and he goes fastest with a 123.6.
122 indeed. A 122.758. So just quicker than Norris there by quite a bit. Almost a whole second quicker than the McLaren. Just watching this replay of Charles Leclerc go into that wall in turn 1. I think he locks up very badly, as all the drivers have done, and we just see that big lock up and go straight into the wall.
All 4 tyres locked up there. Luckily he didn't.
No, it didn't actually.
I think
just
he may
misses
have
the
ever
wall.
so slightly kissed the wall, but didn't cause any damage. Luckily, that runoff goes quite steep uphill, and yeah, he does
Just keep
miss
it out of the
that
wall.
He's very lucky there. I mean, it's interesting to see all of these drivers struggling out there. Russell sets the fastest first sector though. Now, this track is evolving quite quickly. Norris has some purple mini sectors through the middle sector, and not improving in his final sector. Yeah,
Maybe just backing
we'll
off
see
to
what
start a
happens.
new lap. Yeah, I think that's what Norris is doing. I think just backing off to start a new one. And Ocon now starting a hot lap as well. We're just into the final 5 minutes here of the session. One more time, we're going to go straight into our next stream, which is on our other channel, Forever Motorsports, to review Practice 3 and, of course, look forward to qualifying later. So be sure to go and subscribe to that pinned comment and our other channel there, Forever Motorsports, which should be close to 200 subscribers, Reese, I'm sure. And we will be...
right now for you.
and please do be sure to go and like that video as well, and be sure to join us for qualifying later today.
No, only 193 subscribers, unfortunately. So it's just been, I'll tell you his name again, because he's the only one that's subscribed since I've been telling you to, so he will get a double shout out. Marcus Enrico Barco was the only one who has subscribed so far, so please be sure to go and check out that dedicated motorsports channel where I will be bringing you...
Bottas has set a purple sector. Bottas has set a purple sector in sector 1.
This
So
track is really dried out now. It's pretty much got a full dry line throughout the entire track.
Russell went second fastest, only just 0.021 behind Max Verstappen. So
Piastri
great
goes
time there.
faster than his teammate though, so we could have even a 5-way battle. We could have multiple constructors fighting it out for pole position later this afternoon. Do be sure to join us on our Forever Motorsports channel for qualifying this afternoon. That is where we will be hosting that stream. It won't be on this channel. We will push you across to that channel, and now after this, do be sure to hit that subscribe button, and maybe I'll give you a shout out if you subscribe like Marco. Verstappen going much faster in the middle sector now. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, indeed. Verstappen, I was just going to go and say, Verstappen gone much quicker in Sector 2 here. Going into Sector 3, it's going to be a hell of a quick time as he comes around the final couple of bends here. Just watching Norris start a new hot lap here, just gearing up to start another lap as Verstappen now comes around that final bend. I think he might be caught out a little bit by Norris, perhaps. No, he will be fine. And it's going to be a 121, perhaps, indeed, a 121.631. So very quickly evolving this track. It's getting a lot drier, and so we're seeing all these times tumble as quickly as anything.
I mean, that's 4 seconds up on the fastest person. No, sorry, 1.1 seconds up on George Russell's fastest time out there. Max Verstappen really keeping a quite hooked up.
Leclerc
there.
being held up
gets held up by
badly.
McLaren, this is terrible. Come on, get out the way, McLaren. We want to see what the Ferrari's able to do, and he's backed off.
Oh, I think he's very irritated with him, and now it's just... I think he's probably going to do a little bit of dirty tactics and sort of get in the way of his the start of... I think that's Piastri's run.
Let's see what Hamilton can do now. He's coming through the middle sector. 2 minutes left of the session to go. 1.2 seconds off of Verstappen's fastest time. That should put him around about in between Piastri and Russell if he can keep that delta where it is right now. Norris also on another hot lap. Will he be able to improve on Verstappen's fastest times out there? He's down in the middle sector, 0.6, but it should put him comfortably in second. Albon now moves himself up into 6th place with the 1:23, 2.1 seconds off of Verstappen's fastest time. Hamilton now coming across the line. Where does he put himself? Up into 5th. Brilliant lap time from Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, into the last 1.5 minutes left of the session. Norris going round in sector 3. Let's see what time he puts in. Not fast enough, though. Just also noting, F123 has subbed to our other channel. Thank you very much for that. And let's keep it going, guys. Let us know if you have subbed to the other channel. Go and tell us in the comments. I've subbed. Just go and say that, and we'll know that you subbed to the other channel as well. We'll be very much grateful.
I think it also may have a bit of a delay to my side. When I do get notifications of who has subscribed to the channel. 195 of you have now subscribed to that channel. Thank you very much. It does mean a lot to us. I'm putting a lot of work and effort into that channel, so do be sure to join us for all of our live streams throughout the weeks.
Russell's going around very, very quickly. He's just improved upon his time again, but 0.37 seconds still behind Verstappen. But good to see some
in the middle sector.
Ooh, here comes Piastri. Alonso not looking as quick as I was hoping he would be, only down in 12th, so really disappointing there. For Fernando Alonso. Of course, it's a much drier track. Oh, big
oversteer moment for Charles Leclerc in that final turn 13. Now making his way through turn 14. Goes through that DRS detection point. Across the line. He goes 3rd. Brilliant from Charles Leclerc with a bit of a moment.
And Piastri goes 3rd now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to go and say that. Verstappen set another purple sector in sector 1, so he just cannot stop going quicker. But great little run there from Piastri. Still, though, 1.2 seconds behind Verstappen. So George Russell, the only one really competing with him.
Yes, George Russell is, as you say, the only one really competing. Max Verstappen with a big lockup goes into the gravel trap.
Oh dear.
This will be the end of his session. He keeps it going through there though, but his lap time is nullified. Alonso on another hot lap now. Personal best through the first sector. What will he be able to do through the second and third sectors? Will he be able to hook it up enough to get in that top 3? 0.6 down. It's looking like it's possible at the moment. He needs to keep that delta where it is now to stay in that top 3. The gap to number 3rd is 1.2 seconds, so he's well within that right now. What can he do in this final sector? Comes through turn 13 where we saw Charles Leclerc having that bit of a moment. He keeps it neat and tidy though. Now making his way through the final turn 14. Released from that turn now and coming towards that start finish.
Good boy.
Up into P3. Brilliant from Fernando Alonso.
That's what I expected. That's more of what I was expecting from Fernando Alonso. Piastri now also finishing up his session. So is Perez, who's also on the last hot lap here. Just finishing up with our final few drivers here before we will end the session. And I just want to say thank you very much to Cody. He's also subscribed to the other channel. Very much appreciated. Sir Oscar Piastri is absolutely cooking. Indeed, he is. As he crosses the line, though, still only sits in 4th. But still very good session from him and the 2 McLarens. Perez now finishing up is going to be our last driver, basically, to cross the line. And get a decent time. Though Hamilton's going around quite quickly as well. Sergio Perez. Oh, Albon moves into 4th position.
Brilliant from Alex Albon. What can Sergio Perez do now? He approaches that start-finish line. He moves himself now up into 3rd place. Hamilton also finishes another lap and moves himself up into 5th. We have 3 subscribers. Well, we are 3 subscribers away from 200 on that channel. Come on, guys. We need 3 of you just to go and hit
Indeed, let's get it going there. We have just finished now practice 3. So we're going to hit it on into the next channel, which of course you can go and subscribe to in that pinned comment we were talking about. Just watch this replay of Max Verstappen go into the gravel, just the same as earlier as teammate Sergio Perez, just locking up into that gravel section there. So yeah, we're going to go straight across into that channel. We're going to review this session, so don't go anywhere. Let yourselves be taken across to that stream, and you'll be taken across to our other channel, Forever Motorsports, for qualifying. We'll see you in just a bit.